Chapter 564. Inside the Seven Emotions sect, Lung Ningyu was taking Chu Kuangren around. Both of them were extraordinary people, and when they stood together, they really gave off the feeling of a celestial couple. The surrounding disciples could not help but be envious when they saw them. Lung Ningyu's image in the Seven Emotions sect had always been high and mighty, an untainted fairy. Aside from Red Moon and the Cold Moon deity, even the few elders and core Taoists were not close to her. After all, not many people would be so close to someone they had no feelings for. But this didn't stop people from fantasizing about her, so there were quite a few people who secretly admired Lung Ningyu. However, no one had ever heard of her being close to any man. It was the first time for the people of the Seven Emotions sect to see a scene like today where Lung Ningyu personally led a couple around the Seven Emotions sect. Brother Chu, this is the Seven Emotions sect's cascade waterfall. Lung Ningyu brought Chu Kuangren to a waterfall that flowed down from a cliff. The sound of water crashing could be heard from 10 kilometers away. After Lung Ningyu introduced the cascade waterfall, she stood at the side without saying a word, allowing Chu Kuangren to enjoy the scenery. It was the same for most of their journey. Every time they arrived at a scenic spot, Lung Ningyu would say the name of the place, and then retreat to the side without saying a word. It was obvious that she rarely interacted with others. Sometimes, she would look like she wanted to say something but could not find a topic to talk about. Most of the time, it was Chu Kuangren who spoke first before she could reply. Brother Lung, you seem to be acquainted with the Taoist of the Sword Tribe? Chu Kuangren asked out of the blue. I do. Lung Ningyu nodded. I heard that Jian Taoist is courting you. Courting? Lung Ningyu frowned, as if pondering the meaning behind those words. Finally, she said, Jian Daozi has indeed sought me out many times compared to others. As for pursuing me, fellow Taoist Chu, you're saying that he wants to become my Taoist companion. Yes, what do you think? I'm focused on Taoism, so I don't have such thoughts. I see. Chu Kuangren only asked casually, and did not pursue the matter. Ningyu, so you're here. At that moment, a voice came from behind Chu Kuangren and his companion. A white-robed young man was seen walking towards them. When he saw Chu Kuangren, a strange look flashed across the young man's eyes before he looked at Chu Kuangren warily. I believe this must be the Chu Kuangren whose name has been spreading like wildfire recently, Brother Chu. Greetings, my name is Li Salong. Ever since he arrived at the Seven Emotions sect, he had heard about Chu Kuangren's visit. Coupled with Chu Kuangren's appearance and temperament, it was not difficult for him to guess who it was. Greetings, Brother Li. Chu Kuangren looked at Li Salong with a playful gaze. This person was hostile towards him? Why, Ningyu, long time no see. How have you been recently? Li Salong looked at Lung Ningyu and asked gently. Upon hearing that, Chu Kuangren finally understood. So it was because of Lung Ningyu. Looks like it was another one of Lung Ningyu's pursuers. Thank you for your concern, fellow Taoist Li. Ningyu has been doing fine recently. By the way, has Senior Li arrived? Yes, Master is now treating Senior Lung Yu. Then I'll go take a look as well. Lung Ningyu said before she turned around and walked towards the direction of the Grand Hall. Curious, Chu Kuangren followed her. Beside him, Li Salong looked at him cautiously. Brother Chu, why would you suddenly appear here? What's your motive for approaching Ningyu? Does this have anything to do with you? Chu Kuangren chuckled and did not bother to explain. Li Salong's eyes flashed coldly. I don't care how powerful you are, Chu Kuangren. I'm warning you. Before he could finish his sentence, all of a sudden, an earth-shattering pressure of the way of the sword enveloped him. The sword aura was so strong that it almost suffocated him. Warning? No one has ever warned me before. Brother Li, please be careful with your words. Chu Kuangren said calmly. Opposite him, Li Salong's forehead was already dripping with cold sweat under the pressure. It was too terrifying. Although Li Salong was not a forbidden sky pride, he was still one of the best sky prides. However, he could not even withstand Chu Kuangren's aura. Brother Li, Brother Chu, what's wrong with you too? Lung Ningyu seemed to have sensed something strange behind her. She turned around and looked at Chu Kuangren, and Li Salong with a questioning gaze. It's nothing. Chu Kuangren smiled and retracted his sword Dao aura. His mastery of the aura was exquisite. It was only directed at Li Salong, and did not leak out a single bit. Therefore, Lung Ningyu did not notice it at all. Lung Ningyu did not suspect anything and continued to walk forward. Chu Kuangren followed suit. Behind them, Li Salong stared at Chu Kuangren's back. Although it was their first time meeting, he looked at Chu Kuangren as if he was looking at his father's murderer. If you look at me like that again, I don't mind gouging your eyes out. Chu Kuangren's cold voice drifted into Li Salong's ears. Upon hearing the warning, Li Salong quickly retracted his gaze. He knew that if the rumors were true, even 10 of him would not be a match for Chu Kuangren. The 3 of them arrived at the Grand Hall. As soon as Chu Kuangren entered the Grand Hall, he noticed that there was an unusual atmosphere in the Grand Hall. Inside the Grand Hall, there were 5 people, other than Cold Moon Deity and Red Moon. There was also a handsome middle-aged man with white sideburns. The other 2 looked like elders. At that moment, Cold Moon Deity was glaring at the middle-aged man with anger in her beautiful eyes. Li Daoren, don't you think it's too much to take advantage of me like this? Cold Moon Fairy said with a cold tone. Li Daoren replied, Cold Moon Deity, this is my only condition. You can choose not to accept it, but in this world, I'm afraid you won't be able to find another doctor or alchemist who can suppress the fire poison in your body other than me. Senior Li, you're also a great doctor. Don't you think it's shameless of you to make such a condition? Red Moon looked at Li Daoren with the same unfriendly expression. This is between me and your honorable master. A junior like you has no right to interrupt. Li Daoren said indifferently. What's going on? Lung Ningyu walked up and asked curiously. Senior sister, Senior Li said he has a way to cure the fire poison in honorable master's body, but he asked for us to become partners. Red Moon said while gritting her teeth. When Lung Ningyu heard that, her heart did not waver, but she could not help but frown. Senior Li, can you change your condition? I've liked your honorable master for many years, but she refused to accept me. I've had enough. Today, I must fulfill my wish. Li Daoren took a deep breath and looked at Cold Moon Deity with a fiery gaze. Ever since he was young, he had fallen in love with the Cold Moon Fairy. However, after so many years, he had not been able to obtain her. When he found out that she had been poisoned by the fire poison, his first reaction was not to feel pity for her, but excitement. Because in this way, he could use what he had learned to approach the other party openly and launch an attack to pursue her. Chapter 565. After so many years, even a rock should be warm by now. Cold Moon, don't tell me you don't feel anything for me at all? Master Li looked at Cold Moon Deity and said with a pained expression. Brother Li, I'm very grateful that you've helped me alleviate the fire poison for so many years, but you can't force a relationship. Cold Moon Deity took a deep breath and tried her best to calm herself down. She also knew how Taoist Li felt about her, so she had always deliberately kept her distance from him. Every time he finished treating her, she would pay him a batch of spirit sources or give him some treasures in return. She was determined not to owe him any favors. However, she did not expect Master Li to not let her go even after she made it so obvious. Now he was even threatening to force her to become his Taoist partner. No, I must force it. Even if I can't have your heart, I must have your body. Master Li gritted his teeth and said, If you want to live, you must become my Taoist partner today. Forming a bond was a common method for Taoist partners. Once both parties formed a bond, they would live and die together without betrayal. If they did not form a bond, Master Li would not have made such a request. Otherwise, if he had just cured Lung Yu a second ago, and the other party killed him with a palm strike, wouldn't he have no place to cry? Master Li, don't cross the line. Even though Lung Ningyu was a cultivator of the Tao of Oblivion, she could not sit still when she saw her honorable master being threatened. By the way, not only Cold Moon, but Ningyu as well. My disciple Salong has liked you for a long time, so let's have a double celebration today. You and Salong shall become Taoist partners too. Li Salong was so happy that he almost jumped up. He had given Master Li countless thumbs up in his heart. A master like him was just too good. Not only did he find a Taoist partner, he did not forget to bring him along. Now his long-cherished wish could be fulfilled. Ningyu, don't worry. If you and I become Taoist partners, I'll treat you well for the rest of your life. Li Salong looked at Lung Ningyu with a loving gaze. Beside them, Chu Kuangren was dumbfounded. Where did this master and disciple come from? How shameless. Master Li, please leave. I can't cure this fire poison. Cold Moon Fairy suddenly said coldly. She could tolerate Taoist Li thinking about her, but he dared to think about Lung Ningyu. That was something she couldn't tolerate. The fact that she didn't throw Li Daoyu and the other man out of the 7 Emotions sect on the spot was already the result of her restraint. Lung Yu, think carefully. If you don't get rid of the fire poison in your body, in less than 10 years, no matter how high your cultivation is, you will definitely be burnt to death. Taoist Li said. Hearing this, the expressions of Lung Ningyu, Qi Yu, and the 2 7 Emotions sect elders changed. However, the Cold Moon Fairy had expected this and said calmly, "This has nothing to do with you." She knew her own situation best. She could guess how long she could live without Taoist Li telling her. But this could not be used as a bargaining chip by Taoist Li to threaten her. Between her life and her disciple, she would undoubtedly choose the latter. Taoist Li, I'm willing to become Tao companions with you, but you can't threaten my master. I wonder if you can heal my master? Lung Ningyu said softly. Her tone was emotionless, as if she wasn't the one who was about to marry someone else. Senior sister, you can't. Nonsense. Qi Yu and the Cold Moon Fairy tried to stop her at the same time. However, Lung Ningyu looked at the two calmly and said, Master's poison is more important. Chu Kuangren watched from the side. He could not figure out if Lung Ningyu was cultivating the path of oblivion. If one were to say that she was sentimental, she always looked like she didn't care about anything. If one were to say that she was heartless, she was willing to give herself to Li Salong for her master. You don't have to worry about my master's poison. I'm the one who calls the shots here. The Cold Moon Fairy snorted, adamantly disagreeing. Master. Shut up. Lung Ningyu still wanted to say something, but Cold Moon Fairy glared at her, causing her to swallow back her words. Actually, I can cure Cold Moon Fairy's fire poison too. Just when the situation was at a stalemate, Chu Kuangren suddenly spoke. His words attracted the attention of everyone present. Where did you come from? You want to cure the fire poison? Li Daoren snorted. That fire poison came from the ancient Crimson Sovereign Serpent. Of all the doctors in this world, no one can cure it except me. The Crimson Sovereign Serpent was a rare ancient wild beast. The Cold Moon Fairy had encountered one a long time ago. Because the Crimson Sovereign Serpent was wreaking havoc in the human world, she killed it. However, she was also poisoned by the fire poison. Other than you? Chu Kuangren could not help but laugh. You're too full of yourself. What did you say, kid? Li Daoren's expression darkened. The spiritual power within his body rumbled, as if he was about to attack. Keep your stupid thoughts to yourself. I can guarantee that if you dare to move, your head will see your body in the next second. Chu Kuangren placed his palm on the hilt of the Descendant Self sword at his waist. The sharp sword-based Taoist rhyme instantly sent a chill down Li Daoren's spine. He looked at his opponent with fear in his eyes. Who are you? Honorable teacher, he's the rumored Chu Kuangren. Oh, that forbidden sky pride does look extraordinary, but do you know medicine? Li Daoren was a little surprised. More than you. Chu Kuangren did not bother to talk to Li Daoren. He said to the Cold Moon Fairy, Brother Lung, if you trust me, can I give it a try? The Cold Moon Fairy looked at Chu Kuangren and chuckled. If you're not confident, I'm sure you wouldn't have asked. So please, Brother Chu. Lung Yu, are you really going to put your life in this guy's hands? Li Daoren panicked. It's better than being threatened by someone. The Cold Moon Fairy said coldly. I need a place with abundant water chi. Brother Lung brought me to the Flow Waterfall just now. That place is just right. Please follow me, Brother Lung Yu. All right. The group headed towards the Flow Waterfall. Li Daoren followed. I'd like to see what this kid is capable of. On the way to the Flow Waterfall, Chu Kuangren asked Lung Yu curiously, why did you agree to become Li Salong's Taoist partner? To save my honorable teacher. Rumor has it that Brother Lung cultivates the Oblivion Tao. It seems like your cultivation is not thorough enough. I may be cultivating the oblivion Tao, but my honorable teacher has saved my life, raised me and taught me. I have to repay her. Leng Yu said calmly. Chu Kuangren seemed to have understood something. Leng Yu had cultivated the oblivion Tao, but it was not a true abandonment of love. Instead, she had greatly reduced the influence of emotions on herself. However, she still had the knowledge of a normal person. For example, repaying a debt of gratitude. Abandonment of love doesn't mean that you're heartless. It seems like I've misunderstood. Who in this world can truly abandon their love? Chu Kuangren chuckled. After a while, the group arrived at the bottom of the flow waterfall. The rumbling of water reverberated, and a large amount of water vapor filled the air, forming a faint mist around them. Brother Leng, I'll let the water vapor enter your body later. Please don't resist, and use your spiritual power to circulate with the water vapor. All right. The Cold Moon Fairy nodded. Chapter 566. Let's begin then. Chu Kuangren clasped two of his fingers together, and the surrounding water vapor gathered towards him. In an instant, the water vapor condensed into tiny needles in the air. Everyone could not help but be surprised. Condensing water vapor into needles, an acupuncture technique? Daoist Li, who was an expert in medicine, murmured before he smirked. And here I thought it was some kind of brilliant medical technique. I've tried this acupuncture technique before, and I even used the most brilliant reverse rejuvenation 7 needles. But even that won't do anything to this fire poison. What a fool. Chu Kuangren could not help but scoff at his words. The reverse rejuvenation acupuncture technique uses the wood-based spiritual qi of heaven and earth to heal the patient, but the fire poison in Sister Leng's body belongs to the fire element. Are you trying to treat a fire element injury with a wood-based acupuncture technique? Do you think the fire is not strong enough? Sister Leng managed to survive until now thanks to your treatment, because of her high cultivation level and strong foundation. It's already a blessing that she has 10 more years of life left. Daoist Li's expression became gloomy when he heard Chu Kuangren's words. Red Moon, on the other hand, was so angry that she gritted her teeth and cursed. Be ****, so you've been harming my honorable teacher all this while. How can you call it harming a doctor? Daoist Li snorted. There's no cure for the fire poison in Leng Yu's body. If I didn't suppress it with my acupuncture technique, she would have been poisoned many times over. Idiot, your method doesn't solve the root of the problem. Besides, every time you suppress it, the fire poison will burn even more fiercely. Cold Moon Fairy could not help but recall how Daoist Li had treated her in the past. With Daoist Li's help, the number of times her fire poison flared up decreased, but at the same time, each time it flared up more violently than before. She initially thought that it was a characteristic of the fire poison, but she did not expect there to be another reason. Daoist Li was so angry that his face turned green. He then waved his sleeves and said, there's no point in talking anymore. We'll talk after you've cured Leng Yu. If Chu Kuangren could not cure Leng Yu, then everything he said would fall apart. I don't need you to tell me. Chu Kuangren grabbed a needle that was condensed from water vapor and pierced it into Cold Moon Fairy's acupuncture point. In an instant, water vapor entered his body. Chu Kuangren repeated what he had done. His hands moved quickly, and the water vapor in the air condensed into needles and pierced them into the Cold Moon deity's acupuncture points. Fellow Taoist Leng, circulate the spiritual power in your body along with the water qi I've injected into your body. First Juk Chi Hai Red Sandalwood, by Hui Sanjiao. Chu Kuangren instructed, and the Cold Moon deity did as she was told. She felt that there were two kinds of hot and cold feelings alternating in her body, as if she was in a world of fire and ice. In the eyes of the others, the Cold Moon Fairy's expression kept changing. Sometimes it was rosy, sometimes it was pale. Soon, a large ball of water vapor wrapped in a dark red flame slowly came out of the Cold Moon Fairy's body. Roar! This dark red flame seemed to have a mind of its own. It actually turned into a strange beast that looked like a poisonous snake, roaring continuously in the water vapor. You're just a bunch of flames without a source, yet you still dare to be so arrogant? Chu Kuangren curled his lips and raised his hand to gather the water qi in the air once again. Slash. The water vapor turned into a sharp blade and slashed at the flame. In an instant, this ball of fire poison mixed with the steam and dissipated into nothing. Success. Red Moon was overjoyed. Meanwhile, Lidoran's face turned pale. How can this be? How can this be? How did he succeed? He had not succeeded in curing the Cold Moon Fairy for so many years. Yet Chu Kuangren succeeded? Right under his nose, Chu Kuangren used a method that he had never seen before. That's it. The Cold Moon Fairy looked at Chu Kuangren in disbelief. The disease that had plagued her for so many years was cured by Chu Kuangren in just a few moves. This was just too unbelievable. How do you feel? Chu Kuangren looked at the Cold Moon Fairy and smiled. Very good. I've never felt so relaxed before. The Cold Moon Fairy said happily. How did you do it? Lidoran looked at Chu Kuangren in disbelief. Do you want to know? Kneel and beg me. If I'm in a good mood, I might tell you. You, Lidoran snorted coldly and left. At that moment, Red Moon stopped him. What's wrong? You've harmed my honorable teacher for so many years, and you're thinking of leaving now? Aren't you a little too naive? Red Moon let him go. At that moment, the Cold Moon Fairy said, however, from today onwards, the Seven Emotions sect will no longer welcome you and your disciple. Cold Moon, you really don't care about old friendships. From the moment you threatened me, you and I are destined to be strangers. Get lost. The Cold Moon Fairy did not hold back and immediately ordered her people to expel Lidoran and Red Moon Fairy from the Seven Emotions sect. Fellow Taoist Chu, thank you for treating my master. I apologize to you for my previous offense, Chu Li said with a smile. Red Moon bowed in front of Chu Kuangren. I didn't take the previous incident to heart. It was just a small matter that was not worth Chu Kuangren's attention. Now that he had saved the Cold Moon Fairy, he instantly became a VIP of the Seven Emotions sect and was treated well. The next day, the Cold Moon Fairy summoned Chu Kuangren to the main hall, where a few elders of the Seven Emotions sect were present. These people gathered in one place and sized Chu Kuangren up from head to toe. Some of the more daring female elders even whistled at him. Chu Kuangren calmly cupped his fists and said, Greetings, fellow Taoists. Oh, Brother Chu, the reason I called you here today is to discuss the exchange of Emperor techniques. The Cold Moon Fairy took out 5 scrolls. These are the 5 scrolls of the Seven Emotions sect. They are the Heartrending Claw, Heaven's Fury Blade, Delightful Seal, Wraith Blade and Rage Spear. These 5 scrolls correspond to the 5 emotions of grief, anger, joy, fear, and hatred. Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up and he immediately took out the 3 scrolls he had obtained. These are the Raging God's Fist, Heart-Piercing Finger, and Heaven's Sorrow Palm. Exchanging 5 scrolls for 3 seemed like a loss for the Seven Emotions sect. However, Chu Kuangren knew that the Cold Moon Fairy was repaying him for saving her life yesterday. Otherwise, the Cold Moon Fairy would not have handed over the Emperor techniques so easily. Brother Chu, you may study these 5 scrolls in the Seven Emotions sect, but please don't take them away. Of course. Chu Kuangren nodded slightly. After that, the Cold Moon Fairy waved her hand and signaled the others to leave with the remaining 3 scrolls. She looked at Chu Kuangren with a strange gaze. Chu Kuangren was a little scared by her stare. Could it be that the Cold Moon Fairy wanted to repay him with her body, because he had saved her life? Upon closer inspection, the Cold Moon Fairy had a peerless beauty and was extraordinarily charming. Otherwise, Li Daoist would not have been obsessed with her for so many years. TSK. If she really wants to repay him with her body, should I agree? If he did not agree, the Cold Moon Fairy would not force herself on him. After all, he was so handsome. It was not impossible for her to force herself on him. Should I resist? Chu Kuangren's thoughts started to wander. What do you think about condensed jade? At that moment, the Cold Moon Fairy suddenly said, What? Why did she suddenly mention condensed jade? Could it be that she wanted to buy one get one free? Chapter 567. Sister Ningyu is the Seven Emotions sect's maiden sage. Whether it's in terms of cultivation or talent, you're the best of the best. Chu Kuangren calmed the thoughts that were running wild like a wild horse and said calmly, You know that's not what I'm asking you. Cold Moon Deity said faintly. Well, I don't quite understand what you're saying. Chu Kuangren pretended to be confused. What a joke. He was already taken. This Cold Moon Deity was trying to seduce him. No way. Then I'll be straightforward. I hope that you can make Ningyu fall in love with you. Cough cough, Sister Lung. Forgive me for not being able to do that. Feelings cannot be forced. I have no such intentions towards Sister Ningyu. It doesn't matter if you do or not. The main thing is for Ningyu to have feelings for her. Chu Kuangren was even more confused. Sister Lung, are you trying to persuade me to seduce Sister Ningyu and make me a scumbag? Something like that. Cold Moon Deity rubbed her chin and said. Chu Kuangren was dumbfounded. What kind of hatred did this pair of master and disciple have for each other? No, this is not right. This pair of master and disciple seemed to be willing to do anything for each other yesterday. Why did they change in the blink of an eye? It was said that women were fickle, but this change was too fast. Don't misunderstand. I want you to do this because I want to help Ningyu cultivate and make her fall in love with you. Then, she'll forget about you and truly master the path of forgetfulness. Cold Moon Deity said. Upon hearing that, Chu Kuangren finally understood. So he was being used as a tool by her. What if she can't forget me after she falls in love with me? You don't have to worry about that. I have my ways. Chu Kuangren pondered for a while, and then shook his head. I'm sorry, I really can't do this. To deceive a woman's feelings and make her fall in love with him while he himself did not love her, Chu Kuangren knew that he could not do such a thing. TSK, it seems that I was right about you. The more you refuse, the more it shows that you have a noble character and that Ningyu was right about you. Cold Moon Deity looked at Chu Kuangren with admiration. What if I agree? That's even better. This way, I can use you as a tool without any psychological burden. Chu Kuangren was speechless. He shook his head and said, I heard that the Sword Race's Taoist is very fond of Taoist Ningyu. Why don't you let him help? Him? If he was half as good as you, Ningyu's Tao of forgetting emotion would have long achieved great success. Lung Yu pursed her lips. Back in the Sword Clan, Jian Daozi had no idea why, but he suddenly sneezed. Could it be that someone with a cultivation base as high as his would actually catch a cold? Inside the Seven Emotions sect, Cold Moon Fairy continued. However, this kind of thing requires both parties to be willing. If you don't want to, then I won't force you. I have already given you these 5 scrolls. I will arrange a place for you to comprehend. Go and comprehend. And thank you, fellow Taoist Lung. Chu Kuangren nodded slightly and turned to leave. Cold Moon Fairy, who was looking at his back, smiled faintly and said, Brother Chu, you don't know how charming you are. Even I'm a little moved. It doesn't matter if you're willing or not. As long as you're charming and Ningyu is moved by you, then this matter will be mostly settled. Then, Cold Moon Fairy called Lung Ningyu over. Honorable teacher, Ningyu, I called you here today because I have something to tell you. I want you to fall in love with someone. Upon hearing that, Chu Kuangren's figure appeared in Lung Ningyu's mind for some reason. Who are you talking about, honorable teacher? Chu Kuangren. Lung Ningyu's heart skipped a beat, and a rare hint of panic appeared on her cold face. Cold Moon Fairy saw that, and secretly rejoiced. There was a chance. In a secret cultivation room of the Seven Emotions sect, Chu Kuangren lined up the 5 scrolls one by one, and began to comprehend the emperor techniques recorded on them. Chu Kuangren was already very familiar with comprehending emperor techniques. With his indescribable level of comprehension, it took him less than a day to completely comprehend all 5 emperor techniques. If word of this got out, many Seven Emotions sect disciples would be shocked. Even the most demonic skyprides in the Seven Emotions sect would need at least a year and a half to master the emperor techniques. Yet Chu Kuangren had comprehended all 5 emperor techniques in less than a day. It was not a simple comprehension, but a thorough comprehension. Even if Cold Moon Fairy were to come here personally, she might not dare to say that her understanding of these emperor techniques was better than Chu Kuangren's. Now that I've mastered the emperor techniques, I should take this opportunity to refine the wood vein's primordial essence and the white spirit divine fruit. Chu Kuangren thought to himself. He took out the two treasures with anticipation in his eyes. This portion of the wood vein's primordial essence is enough to raise my cultivation to the Boundary Emperor realm. This white spirit divine fruit, on the other hand, can allow me to enter a state of epiphany and increase my understanding of the Tao. Speaking of which, Chu Kuangren's current cultivation level was considered a sage ruler. Strictly speaking, he was considered a supreme sage ruler since he had a supreme sage foundation level. Not only him, but most of the forbidden sky prides were also in the sage ruler realm. The reason why they had the combat strength to rival a boundary emperor was not only because of their own foundation, but also because they had found their own Tao just like the boundary emperors. However, their cultivation level was still in the sage realm. As for the sovereigns above the boundary emperors, they were also boundary emperors. It was just that they had cultivated their Tao to a level that ordinary boundary emperors could not reach. Chu Kuangren first started to refine the wood vein's primordial essence. Aside from being able to increase one's cultivation level, the primordial essence was also a treasure that could prolong one's life and heal injuries. Its healing effects could even tempt sovereigns. Chu Kuangren first left a portion for Murong Xian and Shang Qingxue, then used the rest for himself to refine. Healing effects? He had the immortal body, so why would he need healing effects? Besides, he had the spring breeze healing technique, so its healing effects were not much weaker than the earth vein's primordial essence. Coupled with his top-notch medical skills, he could even heal injuries that the wood vein's primordial essence could not heal. In that case, what was the point of keeping them for? They were just taking up space. Hence he simply used them all to refine. He opened his mouth wide and swallowed the wood vein's primordial essence into his stomach like he was drinking water. The universal cauldron physique was instantly activated. The terrifying universal cauldron physique quickly converted the foreign energy into spiritual power. The wood vein's primordial essence contains such a huge amount of energy that even a top-notch boundary emperor would need at least a year to refine it using the best refining techniques. However, Chu Kuangren did not need that. His universal cauldron physique could quickly refine all kinds of foreign energies in this world. The earth vein's primordial essence was also one of the foreign energies. Even a boundary emperor would need a year to refine it, but Chu Kuangren only took a day to refine it all. And in this short span of a day, his cultivation had also risen continuously, from a first step Holy King to a second step Holy King, then a third step Holy King. In the end, he broke through the sage ruler threshold and reached the boundary emperor realm. Even after he reached the boundary emperor realm, his cultivation level rose by a large margin before it gradually stopped. The boundary emperor realm was not divided into one or two sage realms. Instead, it was divided into 4 levels based on the quality of one's spiritual power. Among the boundary emperors, Tao was more important. If a boundary emperor's Tao was stronger and deeper, then even if one's spiritual power was weaker, there was still a chance for the boundary emperor to win. Before the emperor realm, the Tao is divided into 3 steps: seeking Tao, practicing Tao, and emperor ascension. The practicing Tao is further divided into 5 stages: beginner success, full success, peak, full success, and ultimate realm. The emperor's Tao is at least full success or even ultimate realm. Meanwhile, the invincible Tao that I'm walking on is now at its peak. Now that I'm a boundary emperor, coupled with my supreme sage foundation, even a top-notch boundary emperor would not be able to defeat me in terms of spiritual power quality. With the help of my emperor weapon and other techniques, I can even defeat an emperor who has full success Tao. Chu Kuangren smirked. He felt that he was very powerful now, but his transformation was not over yet. He still had a white spirit divine fruit. Chapter 568. The white spirit divine fruit was one of the 10 great spiritual fruits. Not many people had consumed this spiritual fruit in history, and the most famous one was an ordinary cultivator, who became a peerless sky pride. He even became an emperor within 100 years. Therefore, the white spirit divine fruit was widely known. Chu Kuangren looked at the divine fruit in his hand with curiosity in his eyes. He then opened his mouth and took a bite. With a crack, the juice splattered and exploded in his mouth. A refreshing sweetness flowed down his throat and into his body. The taste was not bad. It was like eating a pear. Chu Kuangren took another bite and quickly swallowed the white spirit divine fruit that was rumored to be miraculous in the outside world. He did not even let go of the seed. Not long after, a strange energy exploded in his abdomen and quickly spread throughout his body. Following that, Chu Kuangren's mind gradually became ethereal as he fell into a mysterious state of epiphany. His comprehension of the Tao was also constantly improving. Just as Chu Kuangren was refining the white spirit divine fruit and entering the epiphany state, the outside world was already in chaos. The barren forbidden area was a land of great opportunities of fortune in the Emperor's Path. Rumor had it that this place had existed since the formation of the Emperor's Path. It was the oldest place on the Emperor's Path. Moreover, numerous extremely shocking fortuitous encounters were hidden here as well. Emperor-grade treasures, emperor weapons, and even the rare emperor's body could be found there. Countless cultivators yearned for this place. However, this place was filled with countless restrictions that would only be opened when the emperor's throne was about to appear. Normally, this place was filled with danger, and anyone who barged in recklessly would most likely die. Now that the emperor's mountain had moved, many of the restrictions in the barren forbidden area had been unlocked, and all kinds of opportunities of fortune appeared one after another. All the sky prides who wanted to fight for the emperor's throne, especially the forbidden sky prides, naturally would not miss this opportunity. Inside the barren forbidden area, in a certain mountain range, an intense battle erupted, affecting the surrounding terrain and causing it to shatter. In the depths of the mountain range, rays of colorful lights were flashing along with a shocking Taoist rhyme. A group of cultivators was attacking a 5-colored giant spider. This giant spider was extremely powerful. Judging from its aura, it had already reached the level of a peak quasi-emperor. Its mastery of the 5 elements was also extremely proficient. However, the cultivators surrounding it were not weaklings either. Even the weakest of them was a saint ruler, and there were more than a dozen quasi-emperors. One of the youths had a 5-colored radiance above his head. His aura was so strong that it wasn't much weaker than the giant spiders. In the end, under the siege of this group of people, the giant spider could only bear with hatred and die. As for that young man, he was the Wang clan's forbidden genius, Wang Quan. Looking at a cave in the depths of the mountain range, his silhouette flickered as he charged in. Inside the cave, there was a dense qi circulating. In front of Wang Quan was a 5-colored pool. This aura, I really did not find the wrong place. This is the rumored essence of the 5 elements, and it is the essence of the 5 elements of high quality. Once I refine it, my divine wheel of 5 elements will be able to improve further. When that time comes, we might be able to fight against Chu Kuangren. Wang Quan looked at the 5 elemental essences with excitement in his eyes. Then he said to the quasi-emperors outside the cave, "I'm going into seclusion to refine this 5 elemental essence. You guys wait outside." Yes. The seals here are really powerful. Bai Hongyu raised her hand and formed the heaven-worshipping seal to shatter the sword qi unleashed by one of the broken seals. After expending a large amount of spiritual power, Bai Hongyu finally broke the seal in front of her. What appeared before her was a fiery red longsword. The sword had a gorgeous design with lifelike dragon and phoenix patterns carved on it, and it emanated an extremely dense emperor's aura. Emperor weapon. This is an emperor weapon. Rumor has it that many emperors have fallen in the barren forbidden area. Looks like it's true. This emperor weapon must have been left behind by one of the fallen emperors. Bai Hongyu looked at the emperor weapon excitedly and rushed forward. Not far away from the emperor weapon, she found a few broken corpses that similarly emanated an emperor's aura. An emperor's broken body. What kind of terrifying power could destroy an emperor to such an extent that only a few bones are left? Bai Hongyu was extremely shocked. The barren forbidden area before the seal was broken was just too terrifying. However, she then murmured excitedly, "If I can refine the emperor's broken body, I'll definitely be able to break through to the boundary emperor realm. And this emperor weapon." She looked at the emperor weapon and reached out to grab it. However, the emperor weapon was unyielding. It unleashed a powerful saber ray and forced her to retreat. "I don't believe I can't make you surrender." Bai Hongyu's expression darkened. She channeled her spiritual power and Taoist rhyme and rushed forward again. After a round of resistance, the Emperor weapon finally acknowledged by Hong Yu as its master, Crimson Dragon Phoenix Saber. After a simple round of refining, Bai Hongyu also learned the name of the saber. She smirked and said proudly, "Don't worry. As long as you stay by my side, I'll definitely make your name known across the world." The Emperor weapon trembled slightly and let out a saber hum, causing the surrounding void to tremble. "Once I've completely refined the Emperor weapon and this Emperor's broken body, Chu Kuangren, I'll definitely trample you under my feet." Chu Kuangren's figure appeared in Bai Hongyu's mind, and a cold glint flashed across her eyes. This is the inheritance of the heavenly golden imperial physique. Inside a spatial secret realm in the barren forbidden area, Xiao Jingqian, who had mistakenly entered this realm, was shocked to see a floating light orb in front of him. The heavenly golden imperial physique was the second strongest physique in history, yet he had been defeated time and time again. Not to mention Chu Kuangren, any forbidden sky pride could beat him up easily. This made Xiao Jingqian extremely frustrated. Hence, he had been trying his best to find an opportunity of fortune to reverse his fate in this barren forbidden area. He did not have high hopes at first, but he did not expect to find such a great opportunity of fortune. Moreover, it was the most suitable opportunity of fortune. The fact that you're able to enter this secret realm means that you're also the heavenly golden imperial physique. I'm Great Emperor Ing Xian, also a possessor of the heavenly golden imperial physique. Although I've become a great emperor, my lifespan is still limited. I came here to explore the barren forbidden area in an attempt to find a way to live a second life, but unfortunately I've fallen. Hence, I've left my inheritance here. Successor, once you've refined this inheritance, you shall be the successor of me, Ing Xian. Do not tarnish the reputation of the heavenly golden imperial physique. An old voice came from the light orb. Following that, the light orb quickly merged into Xiao Jingqian's body. Then a large amount of insights regarding the heavenly golden imperial physique erupted, causing Xiao Jingqian's strength to skyrocket. My Tao is the Tao of the heavenly golden imperial physique. I shall crush everything. Once I've completely refined this inheritance and come out of closed-door meditation, it'll be time for me to dominate the world. Jiandaozi, Wang Quan, Tu Heng Bai Hongyu and even Chu Kuangren. Just you wait. The heavenly golden imperial physique is not to be underestimated. Xiao Jingqian's eyes were filled with confidence. The sky prides entered the barren forbidden area one after another, each seeking their own opportunity of fortune. Everyone was making their final preparations to ascend to the emperor realm. Meanwhile, in the Seven Emotions sect, Chu Kuangren, who was in closed-door meditation, also had a new realization. Chapter 569. Inside the Seven Emotions sect, Chu Kuangren had consumed the white spirit fruit and was in a state of epiphany. His understanding of the Tao was constantly improving, and the various mysterious Tao techniques that he had learned throughout his life replayed in his mind, allowing him to master them more easily. However, at the same time, he thought of a problem. He had found his own Tao, but he did not have a Tao technique that truly matched his Tao. Although his Tao was a little special and could be used in any Tao technique. However, those Tao techniques were all created by others, and he had yet to create a Tao technique that belonged to him based on his Tao. At that thought, Chu Kuangren began to create his own Tao technique. It was not the first time he had done something like this. A long time ago, he had already created many sage techniques and even emperor techniques. This time, he wanted to create his own Tao technique based on his own Tao. Under the state of epiphany from the white spirit fruit, the process was surprisingly smooth, and Chu Kuangren soon had an inspiration. Since I walk the Tao of invincibility, I shall naturally create my own Tao of invincibility. I have many kinds of emperor arts and dharma access. Why don't I get rid of the weeds and keep the essentials? Learn from each other and combine them into one. That will be the prototype of my Tao of invincibility. Chu Kuangren did what he wanted to do. Countless Tao techniques appeared in his mind, and he began to combine them. He knew too many Tao techniques. Even if the other cultivators only had 1/10 of his knowledge, they would still be able to dominate the world. let alone combine them into a new Tao technique. Even an emperor would not be able to do it. However, Chu Kuangren's level of enlightenment was amazing, and with the help of the white spirit fruit, he had made this almost impossible possible. Sword Tao, Buddhist Tao, Guqin Tao, Fist Tao, Saber Tao. They were just the manifestations of his Tao of invincibility. Sword Tao, Buddhist Tao, Guqin Tao, Fist Tao, Saber Tao, and many other Tao techniques gradually combined to form an unimaginably powerful Tao of invincibility. Time passed, and it had been a month since Chu Kuangren went into closed-door meditation. And on this day, an extremely terrifying fluctuation suddenly came from Chu Kuangren's closed-door meditation spot, and an indescribable Taoist rhyme spread. The 7 emotions sex cultivators all sensed it, and looked towards Chu Kuangren. What's going on with this fluctuation? What a mysterious Taoist aura. Why does it feel like the Taoist aura emanating from some sort of cultivation technique? Wait, that's fellow Taoist Chu's place of seclusion. Could it be fellow Taoist Chu? But wasn't he trying to comprehend those scrolls? How could there be such a Taoist aura? The few scrolls that were given to Chu Kuangren recorded the few emperor techniques that the 7 emotions sect had obtained. Since the elders and disciples of the 7 emotions sect had cultivated those emperor techniques before, they were very familiar with the Taoist rhymes that emanated from them. It was definitely not the Taoist rhymes that Chu Kuangren was currently emitting. Just when everyone was puzzled, the Taoist rhyme at Chu Kuangren's location became denser and denser, and a dazzling beam of light shot up into the sky. The pillar of light pierced through the clouds, and an extremely mysterious Taoist rhyme continued to spread out with the pillar of light as the center, covering a radius of millions of miles. Then, the sound of Taoist rhyme reverberated in the sky, and golden lotuses condensed from spirit chi bloomed. There was also a supreme phenomenon of dragons and phoenixes, as well as a myriad of spirits worshipping each other. What's the situation? The cold moon deity and the other cultivators were dumbfounded. The phenomenon before them was just too magnificent. It was their first time witnessing such a phenomenon in so many years. Even if he's fully comprehended all the emperor techniques, there shouldn't be such a phenomenon happening. Could it be that he's created some kind of cultivation technique? Natural phenomena would only occur when new creatures were born. For example, new emperors, new cultivation techniques, and the like. Chu Kuangren's comprehension of the emperor techniques would not cause such a phenomenon. It would only happen when he created some kind of new cultivation technique. Then the question was, what kind of technique did Chu Kuangren create that could produce such a terrifying phenomenon? Even an emperor technique might not have such a phenomenon. Just when everyone was still in shock, the Taoist rhyme that emanated from the beam of light became denser and denser. Then, a white-robed figure gradually emerged from the beam of light. That figure's back was facing the crowd, and when he lifted his hand, a terrifying phenomenon of stars falling and the sun and moon inverting was formed. That figure could pluck the stars, the sun, and the moon with just one hand, as if he was standing at the peak of eternity. The cold moon deity and the others gulped as they looked at that figure. They felt an urge to worship him. Oh my God, what kind of cultivation technique is this? Emperor technique? Or is it a legendary immortal technique? Everyone was guessing, but they could not come to a conclusion. To everyone's knowledge, emperor techniques were the highest level of cultivation techniques. The next level would be the legendary immortal technique. However, the immortal technique was an illusory concept that had never been proven. Nobody knew if it existed or not. Not to mention immortal techniques. Therefore, they did not know how to explain the cultivation technique that Chu Kuangren had created. Only a few extremely ancient existences could make a guess after sensing Chu Kuangren's cultivation technique's aura. Profound? This aura is a profound technique. Did someone create a brand new profound technique? No, it's not a profound technique. But this cultivation technique does have the potential to become a profound technique, or even more. This cultivation technique's aura comes from the Emperor's Road, Hell, Firmament Star, and the 9 Heavens. The ripples of the cultivation technique that Chu Kuangren had created had spread to the 3 realms. Countless ancient existences looked at the Emperor's Road curiously. Since ancient times, There were very few cultivators who could create a profound technique. Each of them was the best among the great emperors, and they were all unparalleled figures who shocked the world. In the barren forbidden area of the Emperor's Road, on a certain mountain peak, a black-haired young man with sharp eyebrows and bright eyes looked in Chu Kuangren's direction, his eyes filled with uncertainty. This aura, is it a profound technique? No, how is this possible? How can someone create a profound technique in the Emperor's Road? How can a person below the Emperor realm control the power of a profound technique? What the hell is going on? Around the black-haired young man were the corpses of beasts. Not far away, countless beasts looked at him with fear in their eyes. Obviously, these beasts were killed by this young man. Among them, there was no lack of boundary emperor beasts. Let's put this matter aside for now. Let's refine this supreme elixir first. This barren forbidden area is still the same as before. There are countless opportunities of fortune here, and I can even find a master-level emperor elixir. Once I refine this, I'll have a 90% chance of breaking through to the emperor realm in my second life. The black-haired young man murmured. If anyone else were to see him here, they would definitely be shocked. Because this person was the Qin family's Qin Tianqian, who was known as the reincarnation of a great emperor. He was also the most dazzling forbidden sky pride in the Emperor's Road. Scram! Qin Tianqian glanced at the beasts around him. In an instant, a large number of beasts fled the scene, not daring to stay any longer. The person in front of them was too terrifying. So many beasts were killed by him, and yet he was not injured at all. Soon, only Qin Tianqian was left at the scene. He glanced in Chu Kuangren's direction. Although he was very concerned about the profound technique's aura, he decided to refine the supreme elixir in his hand first. Chapter 570. 7 Emotions Sect. The transformations caused by Chu Kuangren's creation of the cultivation technique had gradually dissipated. In his closed-door meditation, Chu Kuangren slowly opened his eyes and opened his palms. There was an extremely terrifying Taoist rhyme circulating in his palms. That was the Taoist rhyme of the cultivation technique that he had created. He could sense that this cultivation technique was only in its infancy, and there was still a lot of room for growth. Even though it was only in its infancy, it had already surpassed most emperor techniques. Moreover, since he was the one who created it, it was very compatible with his Tao of invincibility. With this cultivation technique, his combat strength would undoubtedly increase tremendously. This technique is based on my Tao of invincibility, so I shall call it the technique of invincibility. Chu Kuangren casually gave this cultivation technique a name. After that, he tidied up his things and prepared to exit his closed-door meditation. When Cold Moon Deity and the others saw that Chu Kuangren had exited his closed-door meditation, they all went up to him. Brother Chu, congratulations on coming out of your closed-door meditation. That transformations just now were really scary. I wonder what kind of technique did you create? Chu Kuangren nodded slightly. I learned a little. He did not say too much. The technique of invincibility was one of his trump cards, so it was not appropriate for him to reveal it to everyone. Cold Moon Deity also knew that such a technique was extremely rare, and it even touched upon the secrets of the emperors. Naturally, she would not ask too much. Brother Chu, now that you've come out of your closed-door meditation, it should be time for you to go to the barren forbidden area. Cold Moon Deity changed the topic. Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up when he heard that. So the barren forbidden area is already open? He had heard of the barren forbidden area before. He knew that it was a land of great opportunities of fortune in the Emperor's path, and it was even more powerful than the Thousand Wonders Grotto. Yes, it was just a few days ago. Ningyu Red Moon have already gone there, Cold Moon Deity said. I see. The barren forbidden area is quite interesting. Chu Kuangren would not easily miss out on a land of great opportunities of fortune, like the barren forbidden area. He soon bid farewell to Cold Moon Deity and the others. In the barren forbidden area, within a mountain range, Jian Daozi was leading a group of members of the Swordfolk to explore the desolate forbidden area. During the past few days, they had come across some good fortune in the desolate forbidden zone, and all of them had made some progress. That was especially true of Jian Daozi, who had been a forbidden chosen to begin with. With the help of a series of good fortune, his strength had advanced by leaps and bounds, and he was now only a step away from becoming a quasi-emperor. Not enough, this is far from enough. If that's all you've got, you're no match for Chu Kuangren at all. Jian Daozi looked at the sword in his hand. It was the gold Dharch sword, one of the imperial weapons of the sword race. When he came to the desolate forbidden area, the sword clan leader gave him the sword. He had the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart, so he quickly gained the sword's approval and refined it. In his hands, the might of the sword was even greater than in the hands of the elder of the sword race. However, even with the help of the emperor weapon and the increase in his cultivation base, he still felt that it was not enough to fight against Chu Kuangren. Emperor weapon? Chu Kuangren had several of them as well, but that was not an advantage at all. Cultivation? Not to mention, Chu Kuangren was a supreme sage, which meant that he was more powerful than Jian Daozi. Coupled with the earth vein essence, Jian Daozi would definitely reach the boundary emperor level after refining the sword. The current Jian Daozi had no chance of winning against Chu Kuangren at all. Jian Daozi understood this very well. If I want to fight Chu Kuangren, I'll need a master-level emperor weapon or a top-tier boundary emperor-level cultivation base. Then, with the help of the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart, I might be able to put up a fight. Not to mention my swordsmanship. If I can perfect my swordsmanship, I might even be able to fight an emperor realm cultivator. Looks like it's time to look for that item. Jian Daozi murmured as he took out a green-glazed lamp. It was the green-glazed godly lamp. At that moment, a flame was burning inside the godly lamp, and rays of mystical brilliance could be seen within the flame. Not far away, the succubus sentinel's eyes lit up when he saw it. Master was right. Jian Daozi has the wick of the godly lamp on him. Now that the wick has returned, it's time for Jian Daozi to make a move. The succubus sentinel thought to himself. Sure enough, Jian Daozi channeled his spiritual power into the green-glazed godly lamp, and it automatically pointed to a direction. Is it over there? Jian Daozi looked in the direction that the godly lamp was pointing and led the group in that direction. The succubus sentinel did not follow right away. Instead, she planned to stay at the back of the group and secretly send a message to Chu Kuangren. However, she suddenly realized that it was not just her. Jian Chongfeng's movements were also a little sneaky. Suspicious, the succubus sentinel continued to observe in secret. She realized that Jian Chongfeng was actually sending a message to someone. Could it be? The succubus sentinel's eyes lit up as she guessed what was going on. Jian Chongfeng had also been subdued by her master. The succubus sentinel could not help but secretly admire Chu Kuangren's methods. Since Jian Chongfeng had sent her a message, she did not need to do anything unnecessary. However, just as she was about to leave, she suddenly sensed something strange. In the void, someone was spying on Jian Chongfeng just like her. She recognized that person. It was one of Jian Daozi's 3 great hidden guards, the covert sword sentinel. The covert sword sentinel noticed her as well. He smirked and gestured for her to keep quiet before disappearing without a trace. The succubus sentinel was shocked. What was the meaning of this? Was it a coincidence that the covert sword sentinel had discovered that Jian Chongfeng was sending a message to their master? Or had Jian Daozi discovered something and sent the covert sword sentinel to investigate? What about her? Had she been exposed as well? The succubus sentinel suppressed the shock in her heart and glanced at Jian Chongfeng, who was still unaware of her presence. In a flash, her figure disappeared on the spot as well. When she found Jian Daozi, she realized that the covert sword sentinel was there too. Master Daozi was right. Jian Chongfeng is indeed sending a message to Chu Kuangren. The covert sword sentinel was reporting to Jian Daozi about Jian Chongfeng. Greetings, Master Daozi. The succubus sentinel walked up to her, her expression unchanged. Beside her, the covert sword sentinel smiled at her and said, "The succubus sentinel is indeed the succubus sentinel. I only noticed Jian Chongfeng because of Master Daozi's instructions. I didn't expect that the succubus sentinel would also notice Jian Chongfeng's unusual behavior. Your vigilance is not something I can match." "Oh, did you notice something, Mayor?" Jian Daozi was a little surprised. Yes, I noticed that Jian Changfeng's behavior was a little unusual, so I paid more attention to it. I was just about to report to you, Master Daozi, but I didn't expect you to be so observant and have already noticed it. It seems like I did something unnecessary, the succubus sentinel said with a smile. I was just suspecting it. I didn't expect Jian Changfeng to really betray us. That Chu Kuangren sure is cunning. I wonder what kind of benefits he promised Jian Changfeng. How did you suspect him, Master Daozi? Last time at the Thousand Wonders Paradise, Chu Kuangren was able to appear without alerting any of the seals and snatch away the white spirit divine fruit. After that, the more I thought about it, the more I felt that something was wrong. The Thousand Wonders Paradise is so huge. So how could Chu Kuangren appear there so coincidentally? That's when I started to suspect Jian Changfeng. I see. Since I've found out, I shall go and kill him now, the succubus sentinel said coldly. There's no hurry. I can use him to deal with Chu Kuangren and get him to send the wrong message to him. Chu Kuangren, just you wait for your own cleverness to overshadow you. Jian Daozi sneered, looking like he had everything planned out. Beside him, the succubus sentinel revealed a look of admiration. Master Daozi, you're really thoughtful. However, she was sneering in her heart. Jian Daozi, you never would have guessed that I was also sent by our master. Chapter 571. Somewhere in the barren forbidden area, Chu Kuangren slowly walked on the mountain path. With his treasure locating skill activated, he could immediately sense any treasures around him, and went to collect them. Whether it was the barren forbidden area or the 10,000 Wonders Grotto Heaven, they were all excellent places for Chu Kuangren to search for treasures. Suddenly, his communication artifact vibrated. He picked up the compass and checked the message. Then his lips curled into a playful smile. Since Jian Daozi noticed Jian Changfeng's abnormality, it seems he's not that stupid after all. Chu Kuangren was not too surprised by that. Not to mention Jian Changfeng. Even if the magic sword guards were discovered, it would not be a loss to him. Both of them were members of the swordsmen. Whether they betrayed him or died, the swordsman would only feel sorry for them. As for Chu Kuangren, he was only treating it as a game. Jian Daozi, help me search for the Sword Emperor's opportunity of fortune. Chu Kuangren chuckled. At another place, Jian Daozi had led a group of swordsmen to a mountain range. At the end of this mountain range is where the Azure Sword Emperor is. Rumor has it that the Azure Sword Emperor died in closed-door meditation, unable to live a second life. Once I refine the 4 Divine Water and Fire Sword Primordial, my 4 Divine Sword Dao will be able to reach the full completion level. Jian Daozi said excitedly. The 4 Divine Sword Dao was the Dao that he walked on. It was inherited from an ancient inheritance that he obtained many years ago. The 4 Divine Sword Primordial was a treasure that Jian Daozi found in the ancient books of his tribe. It contained the power of the 4 sword Daos of earth, wind, water, and fire. However, during an ancient war, it was divided into 4 parts. Among them, the Wind Sword Primordial was in Jian Daozi's inheritance. After searching for many years, he finally found the Earth Sword Primordial, and went into closed-door meditation to refine that sword primordial. The last Water and Fire Sword Primordial were said to be in the hands of the Azure Sword Emperor. That was also the reason why he wanted the green glass magic lamp. It was the only way to find the Azure Sword Emperor. Beside him, Jian Changfeng's eyes flashed when he heard Jian Daozi's words. Jian Changfeng followed behind the group and sent a message to Chu Kuangren, telling him the location of the Azure Sword Emperor. Not long after, Jian Changfeng discovered that something was amiss. They had already passed the mountain range, but they did not stop. Instead, they continued to move forward into the distance. The Azure Mystic Sword Emperor was nowhere in the mountain range Jian Daozi had mentioned. He wanted to continue reporting to Chu Kuangren, but he was being watched by the concealed sword guards, so he had no chance to do so. Jian Changfeng felt extremely anxious, but there was nothing he could do. He knew that Jian Daozi had already sensed that something was off about him. He had fallen into Jian Daozi's trap. Jian Daozi had used him to send Chu Kuangren false information. Along the way, Jian Daozi sent people to keep an eye on Jian Changfeng. Then, they arrived at a strange forest shrouded in black mist. The black mist in the forest was a kind of restriction. It was not a natural restriction of the desolate forbidden land, but a man-made restriction. Found it, this is the true location of the Azure Profound Sword Emperor. Lord Taoist, this black fog seems a little strange. The phantom sword guard looked at the black mist and frowned. Let the trader go in and test the waters first. Jian Daozi said indifferently. The trader he was referring to was naturally Jian Changfeng. Soon, Jian Changfeng was escorted by the concealed sword guards. I'm curious. What did Chu Kuangren offer you to betray the swordsman for him? Jian Daozi said coldly. As soon as he said that, the news of Jian Changfeng being a traitor spread throughout the crowd, causing an uproar among the swordsmen. However, Jian Changfeng merely smiled. Jian Daozi, you can't defeat our master. Master? Jian Daozi's expression turned grim. You've acknowledged him as your master? Being bought by Chu Kuangren and acknowledging Chu Kuangren as their master were two completely different concepts. The latter would be a bigger blow to the swordsman. The swordsman's top sky pride had acknowledged someone else as his master, and that person was the swordsman's enemy. If word of this got out, the reputation of the swordsman would be greatly affected. Throw him in. Jian Daozi yelled. The concealed sword guard immediately slapped Jian Changfeng's body, sending him into the black mist. The sudden appearance of an outsider caused the black mist to react. The black mist rumbled and formed surges of black sword qi that flew towards Jian Changfeng. The surges of sword qi were extremely sharp. Even though Jian Changfeng's strength was outstanding, he was quickly defeated by the encirclement of the sword qi. With a loud crack, Jian Changfeng's arm was torn apart by one of the sword qi. Jian Changfeng's momentary distraction caused him to be completely torn apart by the sword qi, and he died on the spot. Jian Daozi's expression did not change at all. All he had done was kill a traitor. However, this black mist was a little tricky to deal with. These sword qi are too powerful. It won't be easy to break in. Jian Daozi frowned. Then he looked at the evergreen fairy lamp in his hand. Suddenly, he thought of something and channeled his spiritual power. Within the evergreen fairy lamp, a flame shot out. Wherever the flame went, the black mist automatically retreated. As expected, this evergreen fairy lamp is the key to isolating this black mist. Jian Daozi's eyes lit up. Then he lifted the evergreen fairy lamp and walked deeper into the black mist. Wherever he went, the black mist automatically retreated. The swordsman behind him followed suit. The only thing left was Jian Changfeng's corpse. After a while, a small wooden puppet the size of a palm suddenly walked out of the corpse. Fortunately, I had a stroke of luck in my early years and obtained a soul transfer technique. Before I died, I transferred my soul into this wooden puppet. Otherwise, I would have died here today. That wooden puppet, which was Jian Changfeng, said with lingering fear. However, at that moment, the surrounding black mist began to circulate, and the black mist sword qi once again condensed. No way. I'm already in this state, and this black mist sword qi still wants to kill me. Jian Changfeng's wooden puppet had a horrified look on its face. If this wooden puppet were to shatter, there would be nothing he could do to save the situation. The sword qi shot out. Since Jian Changfeng's physical body had been destroyed, the remaining wooden puppet's combat power was almost zero. It could not fight back at all. Just as the sword qi was about to shatter the wooden puppet, a sword qi suddenly shot out from the sky and protected the wooden puppet, shattering the black mist sword qi one by one. This sword qi is master. Jian Changfeng was overjoyed as he turned to look into the distance. He saw Chu Kuangren stepping on the air and slowly walking towards Jian Changfeng. He looked at him playfully. How did you turn into a figurine? Figurine? What was that? Jian Changfeng was puzzled. However, he did not think too much about it, and knelt in front of Chu Kuangren. Greetings, master. My identity has been exposed. Jian Changfeng then told Chu Kuangren everything that had happened. Alright, I know everything now. Chu Kuangren was not surprised by Jian Changfeng's words at all. Instead, it was Jian Daozi who surprised Jian Changfeng. Besides, Jian Daozi had clearly given him the wrong location. So how did Chu Kuangren find his way here? Could it be Jian Changfeng suddenly thought of something? There are still spies within the swordsman. Yes. Chu Kuangren nodded. Chapter 572. After passing through the black mist, Jian Daozi and the cultivators of the sword race arrived at a strange place. It was a spatial secret realm that had been created by someone. There were mountains, rivers, and a palace. The palace was surrounded by sword scars, each of which contained a sharp sword-based Taoist rhyme, as well as an emperor's might. These were the sword scars left behind by the sword emperor. That was what Jian Daozi and the others thought when they arrived at the palace. They looked at the sword scars with burning eyes. These were the sword scars left behind by the sword emperor, and they contained the Tao of the sword emperor. If they could comprehend them, it would definitely be of great benefit to their cultivation. Among them, Jian Daozi's cultivation base in the Tao of the sword was the highest. When he saw the sword scars, a strange look appeared in his eyes. These sword scars are messy and disorderly. It's almost as if someone was slashing at them with a sword. No, it would be more accurate to say that someone was slashing at them randomly to vent. Jian Daozi said. He could sense anger, hatred, and a strong sense of unwillingness from the sword scars. Ignore these sword scars for now. Let's enter the palace and take a look. Jian Daozi said and led the others into the palace. A skeleton was sitting cross-legged in the palace, and its body emanated an extremely powerful emperor's might. That skeleton was the sword emperor of Azure Mystic. He had already died. Sword scars were also crisscrossing around the skeleton, exuding a strong sense of unwillingness. 2 lines of words were written on one of the pillars. I've meditated for 10,000 years, and my lifespan is almost up, but I still can't live a second life. I hate it. Qingli, forgive me for not being able to see you again. Everyone finally understood what was going on when they saw the 2 lines of words. Those sword scars were indeed left behind by the sword emperor of Azure Mystic. He was venting his unwillingness to live a second life. Legend has it that even emperors have a limited lifespan. Once they reach the end of their lifespan, they can only die if they can't live a second life. The hidden sword guard could not help but sigh. He seemed to be affected by the sorrow and unwillingness contained in the sword scars around him, and he felt a little melancholic. Even emperors would die one day. In this world, was there really no one who could live as long as heaven and earth? Could the legendary immortals do? The hidden sword guards did not understand, and the rest of them did not have an answer either. However, everyone's thoughts quickly returned from the emotions of the emperor's death, and focused on the emperor's corpse in front of them. This was the corpse of an emperor. Even though it didn't have any flesh or blood and was only a skeleton, it was still extremely precious. What about the 4 symbols sword essence? Compared to the sword emperor's corpse, Jian Daozi cared more about the 4 manifestations sword origin, which was related to his own Tao. He activated the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart, and quickly sensed the existence of the 4 symbols sword essence in the palace. So it's here. Jian Daozi raised his hand and circulated his spiritual power. 2 fist-sized beads, one red and one blue, flew out from the Azure Mystic Sword Emperor's corpse. There was a sharp sword-based Taoist rhyme surging on them. However, one of them leaned towards gentleness, like an endless stream of water, while the other was like fire, fierce and domineering, extremely invasive. This was the water and fire sword essence of the 4 symbols sword essence. I finally found it. Jian Daozi's eyes were filled with joy as he grabbed the 2 sword essences. Chu Kuangren, as long as I refine these 2 sword essences, I won't be afraid of you anymore, Jian Daozi said excitedly. However, a light orb suddenly flew out from the sword emperor's corpse. Could this be the sword emperor's inheritance? Jian Daozi was overjoyed. I didn't expect to find something like this other than the 4 symbols sword essence. He raised his hand and grabbed the light orb. Within the light orb, there were countless Taoist rhymes circulating. Any one of these Taoist rhymes was enough to benefit a boundary emperor. It was extremely mysterious. The 4 symbols sword essence and this sword emperor's inheritance. Haha, fate is on my side. This opportunity of fortune is extremely rare even in the barren forbidden area. Chu Kuangren, let's see how you're going to fight me now. Jian Daozi was so excited that he immediately absorbed the light orb into his body. He already had the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart, so he had a natural affinity with sword Dao. This sword emperor's inheritance would take a long time for others to digest. However, it was not necessary for Jian Daozi. A large amount of the sword emperor's insights continued to surge into Jian Daozi's mind, enhancing his understanding of sword Dao. Beside him, the mystic sword sentinel watched anxiously. She did not expect Jian Daozi's opportunity of fortune to be this big. The 4 symbols sword essence and the sword emperor's inheritance. This was enough to elevate Jian Daozi's strength to a terrifying level. She was worried that this would pose a threat to Chu Kuangren. Since he's refining the sword emperor's inheritance, why don't I kill him right here and now? A cold murderous intent flashed across the mystic sword sentinel's eyes. However, she quickly suppressed that thought. No, Jian Daozi's 2 dark guards were here. She was no match for just one covert sword sentinel. There was no way she could hurt Jian Daozi. Huh? Suddenly, Jian Daozi let out a soft gasp as if he had sensed something. How can this be? Why would he suddenly appear here? There's no way he's here. Jian Daozi's eyes revealed a hint of panic. He had sensed another exquisite 9 orifices sword heart approaching. In this world, who else but Chu Kuangren could possess another exquisite 9 orifices sword heart? However, Chu Kuangren had clearly been tricked by him into going somewhere else. And Jian Chongfeng was dead as well. How did he appear here? Jian Daozi was puzzled, but he was currently refining the sword emperor's inheritance. He said, Mayor Chu Kuangren is here. Help me block him. Upon hearing that, everyone's expression changed. Before they could ask any questions, a piercingly cold sword-based Taoist rhyme had already swept towards them from afar. Such a strong sword-based Taoist rhyme. It's really Chu Kuangren. We mustn't let him disturb Master Daozi. Everyone was shocked. Only the mystic sword sentinel had a hint of joy in her eyes. Master is finally here. A black figure walked out from the void. This person looked old, but the domineering aura on his body was extremely dense. It was several times stronger than the covert sword sentinel. That domineering aura, in particular, was filled with a sense of deathly stillness that sent chills down everyone's spines. This person was one of Jian Daozi's 3 great dark guards, the Withered Sword Sentinel. The Withered Sword Sentinel was one of the strongest in the swordsman tribe, and he could even be compared to the swordsman tribe leader. The fact that the Withered Sword Sentinel was willing to stay by Jian Daozi's side showed how much the swordsman tribe valued Jian Daozi. Under the Withered Sword Sentinel's lead, everyone walked out of the palace and prepared to fight Chu Kuangren. Not far from them, a white-robed, black-haired figure slowly walked out from the black mist. Behind him was a strange wooden puppet. It was Chu Kuangren and his figurine Jian Chongfeng. The surrounding black mist turned into sharp sword qi that slashed towards Chu Kuangren. However, it automatically disintegrated when it was 30 feet away from him. It could not hurt him at all. Everyone could clearly see that there was a sword qi that was even sharper than the black mist sword qi that circulated around this person. It was this sword qi that shattered the black mist sword qi. Everyone from the swordsman tribe even came out to welcome me. Hey, I'm flattered. Chu Kuangren smiled at the swordsman tribe members who were ready for battle. Chapter 573. Chu Kuangren. How did you find this place? The hidden sword guards were puzzled. They had clearly used Jian Chongfeng to send false information to Chu Kuangren, so how could he still find this place? Guess. Could it be that you have spies in the sword clan? The withered sword guard seemed to have thought of something, and his expression changed drastically. At this moment, a coquettish chuckle suddenly rang out. The mystic sword guard suddenly attacked and killed off 2 sword clan cultivators. By the time the withered sword guard noticed it, it was already too late. The mystic sword sentinel turned into a ghostly figure, and instantly disappeared from where he stood. He then appeared in front of Chu Kuangren and knelt down on one knee. Greetings, master. The scene before them shattered the worldview of the cultivators of the sword race. Forget about Jian Chongfeng. Even the mystic sword guards had submitted to Chu Kuangren. This was just too unbelievable. It should be known that the mystic sword guards were even more outstanding than Jian Changfeng. They possessed the peerless fallen darkness body, and were the future pillars of the sword race. Not only that, but they also knew that the mystic sword guard was madly infatuated with Jian Daozi. Why did she turn to another man now? What the hell is going on? Jian Changfeng and the mystic sword sentinel. Why would two of our swordsman tribe's top sky prides acknowledge Chu Kuangren as their master? The withered sword guard's face turned green. Chu Kuangren, what have you done to the mystic sword guards? The hidden sword guard asked loudly. Chu Kuangren replied calmly, you can ask them yourself. Mystic sword sentinel, what kind of benefits did Chu Kuangren give you? Or did Chu Kuangren have something on you? Someone questioned the Mei sword guard. I am willing to follow and serve master. Master is my everything. The mystic sword sentinel said. When he looked at Chu Kuangren, his eyes were filled with a crazed infatuation and worship that was 1,000 times more intense than when he looked at Jian Daozi. When everyone saw this, they couldn't help but feel a chill run from the soles of their feet to the top of their heads, causing their scalps to go numb. Even the experienced and knowledgeable withered sword guards couldn't help but feel terrified at this moment. Chu Kuangren was just too strange. No matter who it is, anyone who betrays the sword clan must die. As the hidden sword guard spoke, his figure disappeared into the void. Hidden sword guards, as the name suggested, were experts in concealment. They were the best at assassination among the shadow sword guards. Most of the cultivators were killed by the hidden sword guards before they could even react. Swoosh, a sword ray instantly pierced towards Chu Kuangren. The speed was fast and the angle was tricky. It was the essence of the word assassination to the fullest. With a clang, sparks flew. It was not Chu Kuangren who made the first move. Instead, it was the mystic sword sentinel who stood in front of the concealed sword sentinels. You aren't fit to fight with master. Do you have any concealment techniques? I'm good at it too. The mystic sword guard sneered, and a dark aura emanated from her body. Then I'll kill you first, traitor. The hidden sword guard snorted coldly, and began to fight with the mystic sword guard. The two of them changed positions in the void, and sword aura after sword aura shot out. Chu Kuangren looked at the withered sword guards and said, I'm in a hurry, so you guys can come at me together. Everyone knew that Chu Kuangren was not easy to deal with, so of course, none of them wanted to fight him alone. In an instant, surges of sword chi erupted from the sword clan cultivators and intertwined in the void, forming into a dense sword net that enveloped Chu Kuangren. This sword net was formed by the sword-based Taoist realms of every sword cultivator present, and it was extremely powerful. Even a boundary emperor would not be able to escape from this sword net. However, Chu Kuangren did not budge an inch. Instead, a surge of sword chi burst out from his body and tore that powerful sword net apart with just a casual surge of sword chi. Not only that, but the sword chi flew towards the sword clan cultivators like a hot knife through butter. Several clouds of blood mist exploded on the spot. What a terrifying sword chi. Everyone was shocked. They had experienced Jian Daozi's strength before. They also knew how powerful the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart was. However, Jian Daozi's sword chi was still far from Chu Kuangren's. Slash. With a cold roar, the withered sword sentinel made his move. With a slash of his sword, a grayish-white sword ray filled with a terrifying deathly intent tore through the sky and headed towards Chu Kuangren. As the strongest cultivator in the sword clan, his cultivation level had already reached the level of a top-notch boundary emperor. Compared to the emperors, he was only lacking in terms of Taoist Tao. The Great Mastery Tao? What a shame. If you could achieve the Great Mastery Tao, then it might be worth watching. Chu Kuangren slowly raised his hand and clasped 2 of his fingers together. Then he formed a sword finger and gently slashed at the grayish-white sword ray. A streak of dazzling purple sword light whizzed out. The 2 sword rays collided in the void. The purple sword ray tore through the grayish-white sword ray like a hot knife through butter, and headed towards the withered sword sentinel. How is this possible? The withered sword sentinel's eyes narrowed as he swung his long sword at the purple sword ray. With a clang, the withered sword sentinel's sword flew out of his hand, and he was sent flying before he crashed into the palace wall. With a loud boom, the wall cracked, and the withered sword sentinel spat out a mouthful of blood as several of his bones were broken. He looked at Chu Kuangren in shock. He had heard of Chu Kuangren's combat strength before. He knew that if Chu Kuangren were to use his emperor weapon, no one below the emperor realm would be a match for him. However, Chu Kuangren did not even have to use his emperor weapon. Chu Kuangren had already defeated him with just a sword chi. That was just too terrifying. He's even more terrifying than the rumors say. I can't believe he has improved so much in such a short time. Even with the help of the earth vein essence, how can he refine it so quickly? The withered sword sentinel looked at the calm Chu Kuangren and knew that he and the others could not stop him. He gritted his teeth, and a powerful surge of energy erupted from his body. Dark red blood-colored flames were ignited around him. I won't let you disturb the Taoist disciple even if I have to sacrifice my life today. The withered sword sentinel said ferociously. Chu Kuangren activated his eye of revelation, and could tell that the withered sword sentinel had used some kind of secret technique to forcefully increase his spiritual power. However, the price he had to pay was his lifespan. That technique was similar to the 9 deaths blazing blood art that Chu Kuangren had previously learned. However, it was much more mysterious. Die. The withered sword sentinel turned into a sword ray and charged at Chu Kuangren. The sword-based Taoist rhyme on his body surged, and the dark red blood-colored flames burned on his body. It then condensed into a gigantic sword shadow that exuded a terrifying sword pressure that could destroy everything in its path. The withered sword sentinel had turned his body into a sword and unleashed the most powerful attack in his entire life. Your courage is commendable, but it's useless, Chu Kuangren said calmly. The descendant self-sword at his waist was unsheathed, and a purple sword ray slashed across the sky like a crescent moon. It was breathtaking and beautiful. At the same time, a gush of blood spurted out. The sword shadow on the withered sword sentinel's body was torn apart, and his entire body was sliced in half by Chu Kuangren's sword. The scene before them was extremely horrifying. The crowd of swordsman cultivators trembled in fear. They felt that the handsome, black-haired Chu Kuangren in front of them was an Ashura demon that had just walked out of hell. Chapter 574. The withered sword sentinel used his body as a sword, but he was still sliced in half by Chu Kuangren's sword. Chu Kuangren's unparalleled strength shocked and terrified every swordsman cultivator present. They looked at him as if they were looking at an Ashura demon. Withered sword sentinel. Not far away, the covert sword sentinel's eyes were bloodshot when he saw how easily the withered sword sentinel was killed by Chu Kuangren. He forced the mystic sword sentinel back with a single swing of his sword before he turned into a stream of light and sped towards Chu Kuangren. The stream of light would disappear and reappear in the void at times. It was unpredictable and very strange. In the blink of an eye, the stream of light had already arrived in front of Chu Kuangren. What's the point of changing here and there? Chu Kuangren said as he swung the descendant self-sword in his hand, which landed right in front of the covert sword sentinel. It seemed like a casual attack, but it had sealed all of the covert sword sentinel's movements, rendering him unable to use his movement technique at all. Once the sword was unleashed, the covert sword sentinel was instantly torn apart by the sword chi. It looked like the covert sword sentinel was killed by Chu Kuangren on his own accord. Gulp! The crowd gulped in disbelief. The strongest among them were the withered sword sentinel and the covert sword sentinel. However, both of them were easily killed by Chu Kuangren with a single swing of his sword. They posed no threat to him at all. Chu Kuangren was unstoppable. We're no match for him at all. He's too strong. D****. With such combat strength, he must be an Emperor Realm cultivator. This guy is too scary. Chu Kuangren walked towards the palace under the fearful gazes of the swordsman cultivators. However, at that moment, Chu Kuangren suddenly felt a strange movement around him. The sword scars that were scattered around him gradually emitted an extremely powerful and sharp sword pressure. Moreover, this sword pressure had locked onto Chu Kuangren. Jiandaozi, what kind of surprise can you bring me with such power? Chu Kuangren looked at the palace with excitement in his eyes. A dazzling sword ray suddenly erupted from within the palace, forming a majestic sword chi pillar. In the palace, a golden figure slowly walked out. This person had an unstoppable sword chi, like a high and mighty sword god king, filled with monstrous sword chi pressure. In his hand, there was a light green ancient longsword. It was an emperor weapon, the emperor weapon used by the Azure Profound Sword Emperor, the Azure Profound Divine Sword. This person was none other than Jian Daozi, who had already refined more than half of the Sword Emperor's legacy. Chu Kuangren, I don't care how you found this place, but today, you shall be defeated, Jian Daozi said in high spirits. He gently moved the divine sword in his hand, and the sword Taoist rhymes contained in the sword marks around him erupted and shot up into the sky. This was the Sword Emperor's Tao. After refining the Sword Emperor's legacy, Jian Daozi was now able to control the Sword Emperor's Tao within the sword slashes. I shall let you experience the Azure Profound Divine Sword's dissatisfaction. Jian Daozi raised the Azure Profound Divine Sword in his hand, and the surrounding Sword Emperor's Tao surged towards him, condensing into a giant green sword shadow. A dense Emperor's aura emanated from it, along with a strong sense of dissatisfaction and hatred. It was the Sword Emperor's dissatisfaction at not being able to live a second life. Jian Daozi let out a long roar as his spiritual power gushed out and merged with the Sword Emperor's Tao, making the sword shadow even more corporeal as it slashed towards Chu Kuangren. Before the sword shadow landed, it had already set off a violent gust of wind. Jian Chongfeng, the figurine, could not help but grab onto Chu Kuangren's clothes and shake him in the air. Even the magic sword sentinel had to channel his spiritual power to barely defend himself. However, Chu Kuangren did not even take a step back. His jet-black hair fluttered in the wind, and there was not a single trace of fear on his handsome face. The Sword Emperor's Tao, huh? Then let me have a good taste of it. Chu Kuangren deflected the Descendant Self-sword in his hand and unleashed a slash. A dazzling purple sword ray swept out majestically. That sword attack contained Chu Kuangren's Tao of invincibility. That sword attack was the heaven-slaying sword-drawing technique's sword ray, and it was the sword of invincibility. The purple sword ray and the green sword shadow collided in the void, and the terrifying impact caused the surrounding buildings to explode. The crowd of swordsman cultivators could not help but retreat under the impact. Chu Kuangren and Jian Daozi were the first to bear the brunt of the impact. Chu Kuangren had the Supreme Sage's body, so his physical body was extremely strong. He was not afraid of the impact, but Jian Daozi could not help but bleed from the corner of his mouth as he was forced to retreat dozens of feet. When the sword chi dissipated, everyone saw that Chu Kuangren was still standing on the same spot. His white robe was still the same as before. On the other hand, most of the swordsman cultivators had fallen to the ground. Even Jian Daozi himself was half kneeling on the ground with blood dripping from the corner of his mouth. It can't be. Even the Sword Emperor's Tao can't do anything to this person? How can he be so powerful? The swordsman cultivators looked at Chu Kuangren with shock in their eyes. Jian Chongfeng and the mystic sword sentinel stood behind Chu Kuangren. Their eyes were filled with admiration and respect when they saw the slender white-robed figure. The Sword Emperor's Tao is indeed extraordinary. However, with the passage of time, how much of the Tao in this sword scar can there be left? And you're not the Sword Emperor either. Chu Kuangren looked at Jian Daozi and said calmly, the Taos left behind by the Sword Emperor were truly extraordinary. However, the power of the Taos contained within the sword slashes had been weakened by the passage of time. Furthermore, Jian Daozi had only been able to draw upon the power of the Azure Profound God's Word and the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart. In the end, he was not the Sword Emperor, and the two of them were far inferior. Let's go. Seeing that he could not kill Chu Kuangren even with the Sword Emperor's Tao, Jian Daozi immediately decided to leave. Although he had obtained the Sword Emperor's inheritance, he had not fully refined it, so he was no match for Chu Kuangren. Now he needed to find a place to digest the Sword Emperor's inheritance and refine the 2 sword primes. When that time came, he would definitely be able to fight Chu Kuangren. Where do you think you can go? In a flash, Chu Kuangren cast the space conveyor technique and instantly appeared in front of Jian Daozi. Sword of Tempest, Sword of Earth. Jian Daozi yelled as 2 dazzling rays of light suddenly erupted from his body. 2 pearls, one green and one yellow, flew out from his body and turned into 2 sword rays that headed towards Chu Kuangren. One of them contained the power of a storm, while the other was extremely heavy as if it contained the boundless mountains and rivers. They were the Wind Sword Primes and the Earth Sword Primes. "Oh, so this is your opportunity of fortune?" Chu Kuangren said indifferently. He raised his hand and unleashed a sword attack, sending the 2 sword rays flying away. However, he did not take a single step back. D***. If this goes on, I won't be able to escape. Jian Daozi's expression was a little gloomy. He once again took out the water and fire sword primes that he had obtained from the Azure Profound Sword Emperor's corpse. Although he had yet to fully refine the 2 sword primes, he could still use them with the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart special characteristics. Jian Daozi let out a cold cry and activated his Daoist physique transformation. The sword of the heavens above his head then tossed out the water and fire sword primes. The 2 sword primes resonated with the wind and earth sword primes, and circled around the sword of the heavens. In the end, the sword of the heavens carried an incredibly majestic power of the 4 elements and headed towards Chu Kuangren. "If that's the case, I'll gladly accept these 4 sword primes of yours." Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up as he took out the sacred emerald sword case. 24 longswords flew out from it and formed the 4 seasons sword formation. The sword formation and the sword primes collided. The power of the 4 seasons and the 4 elements intertwined, causing the surroundings to be lit up in a dazzling light. Chapter 575. The 4 symbols sword origin collided with the power of the 4 seasons sword formation, instantly illuminating the sky with a dazzling radiance. Then, Jian Daozi saw that the 4 sword primes were trapped in the middle of the 24 longswords. No matter how hard he tried, he could not break free. D***. Chu Kuangren is trying to steal my sword primes. Jian Daozi's expression changed drastically. The sword primes were treasures that he had painstakingly obtained. They were closely linked to his 4 divine sword Dao, so he could not afford to lose them. However, the 4 seasons sword formation was an emperor-grade sword formation. Although it was not the highest form of the 365 solar terms, Chu Kuangren's current cultivation level was enough to trap the 4 sword primes. Jian Daozi could not summon them back no matter how hard he tried. D***. At that moment, Jian Daozi's hatred for Chu Kuangren had reached its peak. However, he knew that if he continued to stay here, not only would he lose the sword primes, but he would also lose his life. "Chu Kuangren, I'll make you pay for this in the future." Jian Daozi gritted his teeth. While Chu Kuangren was controlling the sword formation to trap the sword primes, he turned into a sword ray and flew away. Chu Kuangren was about to give chase, but the 4 sword primes suddenly unleashed a terrifying surge of sword Dao energy that crashed into the sword formation. "Oh, this is a good treasure indeed." Chu Kuangren narrowed his eyes and channeled his spiritual power into the sword formation, slowly suppressing that surge of sword Dao energy. As for the other swordsmen, they took this opportunity to escape, but they were stopped by the Phantom Swordsman. "Phantom Swordsman, you traitor!" D***. Die. The group of swordsmen and the Phantom Swordsman began to fight again. Intense sword chi danced everywhere. When Chu Kuangren had completely suppressed the 4 sword primes, he grabbed them in his palm and glanced at the swordsman below. With a wave of his sleeves, surges of sword chi rained down on them like torrential rain. Soon, the group of swordsmen fell one by one under the sword chi. They did not even have the strength to resist. "Master, Jian Daozi has escaped. What should we do now?" the Phantom Swordsman said. With Jian Daozi gone, the fact that she was a spy would be exposed. She could no longer return to the swordsman tribe. "It doesn't matter. I can kill him the next time I see him. As for you, stay by my side for the time being." To Chu Kuangren, Jian Daozi was just a tool to kill time. When he was bored, he would play a game with the other party. When he didn't feel like playing anymore, he would just casually kill him the next time he met him. In the face of absolute power, no one could do anything. "Yes, master." Upon hearing that they could follow Chu Kuangren, a hint of joy flashed across the mystic sword sentinel's eyes. "These 4 sword essences are not bad. I plan to refine them here. You can protect me here. Chu Kuangren said indifferently. After the arrangements were made, Chu Kuangren walked into the palace, intending to refine the sword origin. As for the corpse of the Azure Mystic Sword Emperor, it was nowhere to be seen, presumably taken away by Jian Daozi. If he could refine the corpse of an emperor, Jian Daozi would definitely improve significantly. I'm looking forward to our next meeting, Chu Kuangren murmured. Then he saw the 2 lines of the Azure Mystic Sword Emperor's message on the pillar beside him. Emperors also have a limited lifespan. Are there really immortals in this world? Chu Kuangren thought to himself. He felt that there should be. It was probably a life form that was of a higher level than an emperor. Then, without thinking too much, he took out the 4 divine sword essences and began to refine them. The 4 elemental sword primordial spirit was an extremely powerful supreme treasure. It was not an easy task to refine it, especially since Jian Daozi had already refined the wind and earth primordial spirits. If Chu Kuangren wanted to refine it, he would first have to destroy the spiritual thought imprint that Jian Daozi had left behind. Of course, this was not a difficult task for Chu Kuangren. His spiritual will surged and destroyed the spiritual will brand Jian Daozi had left in the sword essence in a seemingly unstoppable manner. In the distance, Jian Daozi's face turned pale as he ran away. The imprint I left in the sword essences has disappeared. D*MNU Chu Kuangren. Jian Daozi gritted his teeth in anger. Once I've fully refined the Sword Emperor's inheritance, I'll make you pay. In the Azure Mystic Sword Emperor's closed-door meditation, Chu Kuangren was refining the 4 divine sword essences. Time passed. 7 days later, a dazzling sword chi shot into the sky. Within the sword chi, there were 4 colors of green, yellow, blue, and red. It was the power of the 4 divine beasts. The power of the 4 divine beasts was so powerful that it shocked the surroundings. Both the mystic sword guard and Jian Changfeng trembled as they watched from outside the palace. How powerful! Is this the complete power of the 4 divine sword essences that Jian Daozi has been dreaming of? It's terrifying. Inside the palace, Chu Kuangren slowly opened his eyes, and a colorful light flashed across them. A satisfied smile appeared on his face. Not bad. This 4 divine sword essences is indeed a treasure. Aside from allowing me to understand the 4 divine sword Tao, it's also fused into a divine power, the divine sword of 4 divine beasts. The divine sword of 4 divine beasts was the true opportunity of fortune that the 4 divine beasts' sword essences contained. Once the 4 divine beasts' sword essences were fully refined, one would obtain this divine power. Divine powers were a type of power that transcended the Tao techniques. Some people were born with it, while others acquired it through various opportunities of fortune. This was similar to the various Taoist physiques. Divine powers were divided into 3 types: minor divine powers, great divine powers, and supreme divine powers. Among them, the supreme divine powers were the rarest existences like the supreme Taoist physique, and they were extremely useful to cultivators. Unlike Tao techniques, divine powers were a type of power that could grow alongside the cultivator. The stronger the cultivator, the more powerful the divine power they could unleash. The divine sword of 4 divine beasts that Chu Kuangren obtained after refining the divine sword essences was the supreme divine power. Even if Chu Kuangren were to become an emperor in the future, this divine power would still be very useful. It was even more valuable than the Azure Mystic Sword Emperor's inheritance. Supreme theurgy is just what the firmament star calls it. There must be more advanced theurgy above this, such as my Eye of Revelation. This is a theurgy that's even more powerful than the supreme theurgy, just like my immortal body and universal cauldron physique, that are stronger than the supreme Taoist physique. Chu Kuangren murmured. He felt that becoming an emperor was not the end of one's cultivation. There were still too many things that he needed to explore in this world. He took a look at the Azure Mystic Sword Emperor's message on the pillar, and said with a determined gaze, "Emperors are still limited by their lifespan, and cannot live forever. Then I shall go further. If an emperor is not enough, then I shall become the legendary immortals. If being an immortal is not enough, then I shall become an existence above the immortals." Chu Kuangren stood up and walked out of the palace. Outside the palace, The mystic sword guard and Jian Changfeng were already waiting for him. Upon seeing Chu Kuangren, Jian Changfeng said respectfully, "Congratulations, master." "All right, get up. There's nothing left to miss here anyway. Let's go," Chu Kuangren said. Then he lifted his arm and a surge of spiritual power instantly gushed out. The power of the four divine beasts, earth, wind, fire, condensed in the void and turned into an extremely powerful four-colored sword shadow. With a terrifying sword chi, it slashed towards the black mist outside the palace. Wherever the sword chi passed, the black mist was shattered. Chapter 576. The four elephants' primordial divine sword was unleashed, and the black mist was broken. Chu Kuangren then left the place with the mystic sword guards and Jian Changfeng. "Is there any way to recover this body of yours?" Chu Kuangren glanced at Jian Changfeng, who had turned into a figurine, and asked casually. Upon hearing that, Jian Changfeng could not help but laugh bitterly. "I've used the great soul transfer technique to transfer my soul into this wooden figurine. In order to recover, I'll need to find an undamaged soulless body and transfer my soul into it." That was a very difficult task. Jian Changfeng's soul power was not strong, so if he wanted to take over someone else's body, he would definitely face resistance from the other person's soul. Since the other person's soul and body were one, how could he fight them alone? As for finding a corpse to take over, a damaged body could not fully accommodate his soul. There was another way, and that was to recreate a new body. However, this method was even more ridiculous than the previous one. It was not that there was no way to recreate a new body, but it was extremely rare. The materials were even harder to find, and each of them was an amazing treasure. Even if there was, Chu Kuangren would still have to consider if it was worth wasting such a treasure to recreate a new body for Jian Changfeng. At the end of the day, Jian Changfeng was merely enslaved by Chu Kuangren. An undamaged soulless body? This might not be too difficult to achieve. Chu Kuangren murmured. Upon hearing that, Jian Changfeng was extremely surprised. "Master, do you have a way?" "You'll know when the time comes." Chu Kuangren did not say much. Within the barren forbidden area, many sky prides came to explore, and each of them had their own opportunities of fortune. At the same time, the restrictions that had yet to completely dissipate were also extremely dangerous, and many cultivators had lost their lives because of them. Even sky prides fighting each other was a common occurrence. A ball of dark red flame flew across the sky and landed on Lung Ningyu's body. The power of that ball of flame was so terrifying that even Lung Ningyu could not help but vomit blood. A large part of her snow-white skin was charred. Not only that, but the flame continuously invaded her body through her wounds and hid deep within her body, making it difficult to detect. Lung Ningyu instinctively felt that something was wrong, but she did not have the time to examine her injuries because the enemy before her was staring at her. It was an incomparably charming woman wearing a dark red dress that accentuated her voluptuous figure. Her eyes were as clear as autumn water, and they were even more amorous. "Senior sister." Not far away, Chiyu's expression changed greatly when she saw Lung Ningyu injured, and she quickly rushed forward to stand in front of her, staring at the charming woman in front of her solemnly. "Crimson Serpent Queen, why are you chasing after us for no reason?" Chiyu asked coldly. The Crimson Serpent Queen was the adopted daughter of the king of the heavenly serpent bloodline of the Emperor Road Ferocious Beasts. Rumor had it that her true form was an ancient ferocious beast, the Crimson Serpent King, which was extremely powerful. However, the Seven Emotions sect and the Sky Serpent branch had never crossed paths. Red Moon did not understand why the Chilean queen would target them. For no reason. "Back then, when your master killed my father, did he ever think that this day would come?" The Crimson Serpent Princess's eyes turned cold. Hearing this, the two of them suddenly thought of something. "The Crimson Serpent that master killed that year was your father?" "Exactly. Damn, I've long heard that your original body is the Crimson Serpent. I didn't expect you to really be related to the King Serpent that master killed." Chiyu cursed in her heart. She did not expect there to be such a reason. "Back then, your father brought disaster to the common people. My master killed him. What's wrong with that?" Chiyu said. My father was possessed by the devil while practicing martial arts. That's why he fell into madness. It was just the death of some common people. When he finished venting his anger, he would naturally return to normal. However, your master insisted on acting as a righteous person, and killed my father. Now, I will avenge my father's death and kill you all. I will first collect some interest from that bitch, Lung Yu. What's wrong with that? The Chilean queen said faintly. She raised her hand and a large amount of crimson flames kept rolling in her palm. That was the Chilean queen's magical power, the crimson venomous fire. This kind of flame was very powerful. In the world, there were few flames that could match it. This is going to be troublesome. Chiyu's expression was a little ugly. They had nothing to say if the other party wanted to avenge their father. However, this did not mean that they wanted to die. Chiyu, leave quickly. You are no match for her. Lung Ningyu's body was filled with cold air, temporarily freezing her injuries. She looked at the Chilean queen with a solemn expression. Kill. The Chilean queen snorted coldly, and raised her hand to throw out the dark red flame. The flame turned into a ferocious python shadow that hissed and bit out. Supreme Forgetting Emotion Finger. Lung Ningyu raised her hand and gathered her Taoist rhyme. With a point of her finger, a huge white jade finger shadow appeared, almost piercing through the void. The power of this attack was very strong. With a point of her finger, the ferocious flame python instantly shattered. The finger force sent the Chilean queen flying. She said in surprise, I didn't expect you to have such combat power. You are indeed a forbidden genius. Lung Ningyu was already seriously injured after being ambushed by her. She also took another blow from the Chilean queen, and was corroded by the venomous fire. However, she was still able to beat the Chilean queen back. However, Chiyu could see that Lung Ningyu was already an arrow at the end of its flight. After the Chilean queen was forced back, Chiyu quickly hugged Lung Ningyu and turned into a ray of light that flew into the distance. Run. No matter how you run, you can't escape from my palm. The Chilean queen stuck out her forked dark red tongue and licked it. Her eyes flickered with playfulness. In her opinion, Lung Ningyu and Lung Ningyu were already prey in her palm. No matter how they struggled, they couldn't escape. She was enjoying the feeling of teasing her prey. Whoosh! A figure appeared next to the Chilean queen. It was a handsome young man. If Lung Ningyu and Lung Ningyu were here, they would definitely recognize this person. It was Li Longsa, the disciple of Li Daoren. Lung Ningyu has been poisoned by my fire desire poison. This poison fire is the complete opposite of the one in Lung Yu. Lung Yu will suffer the pain of being burned by the poison fire when she is in love, but my poison fire will draw out the most primitive desire in Lung Ningyu's body. No matter how pure she is, she can't resist it. Your chance is here. Take advantage of it. The Chilean queen smiled faintly. Hearing this, Li Longsa was overjoyed. Thank you, Taoist Chilean. After this is done, don't forget what you promised me. Taoist Chilean, don't worry. After this is done, I will tell you the whereabouts of the Red Lotus Miasma fire. Li Longsa smiled. Then he untied a brocade pouch on his waist and released a snow-white beetle from it. The beetle circled twice in the air, and flew in the direction that Lung Ningyu and Lung Ningyu left. Snow Jade Broodmother. Even if they are separated by millions of miles, they can still easily find each other. The powder ground by the brood mother has been injected into your body along with the poison fire. Ningyu, you can't escape. Li Longsa revealed a determined expression. Then, following the guidance of the Snow Jade brood mother, he chased after Lung Ningyu with the Chilean queen. Taoist Chilean, after we find those two, I hope that you can cooperate with me to put on a show. Li Longsa suddenly said. I hope that when the time comes, I will appear and save them. Oh, you want to play a hero to save the beauty? You have already come this far, and you still want to win Lung Ningyu's heart? Humans are really contradictory and hypocritical. The Chilean queen smiled but did not refuse. Chapter 577. Chiyu brought Lung Ningyu to a cave, and quickly set up a barrier to hide the cave. After that, she heaved a sigh of relief and slowly placed Lung Ningyu on the ground. Senior sister, bear with it. I will heal you now. Qiyu looked at Lung Ningyu's injuries and quickly took out a bunch of healing pills. It's no use. The injuries caused by the Crimson Serpent can't be healed by these pills. Lung Ningyu shook her head. Then how do you feel now? I feel a little hot. Lung Ningyu frowned. It wasn't too painful, but she felt like there was a fire burning inside her. A primal impulse was brewing as if it could break out at any time. Hot. Qiyu touched Lung Ningyu's forehead. It was indeed a little hot. Her face was red and covered in a layer of cold sweat. What's going on? How did senior sister become like this? Qiyu frowned. This was the first time she saw her senior sister like this. Could it be the Crimson Serpent's poisonous fire? Damn it. Qiyu was extremely anxious, but there was nothing she could do. At this moment, a terrifying energy fluctuation came from outside, shaking the entire cave. Qiyu's expression changed. The barrier she set up was broken. Could it be that the Crimson Serpent Princess is already here? No, how could she be so fast? Lung Ningyu, my poisonous fire doesn't feel good, right? As expected, the Crimson Serpent Princess voice came from outside the cave. The other party had already come knocking on his door. Lung Ningyu struggled to stand up. Qiyu, I will stop her. You take the opportunity to leave. Impossible. Qiyu said firmly. We came together and we will leave together. Don't even think of making me leave. Worst comes to worst, I will go out and fight that stinky snake. She walked out of the cave and saw the Crimson Serpent Princess. Without a word, she activated the Emperor technique, Heart-Ripping Claw. Instantly, a heart-wrenching pain filled the air. 5 claw energies almost tore the void apart. However, the Crimson Serpent Princess smiled in disdain. You're not even a Forbidden Heavens favorite, and you want to fight me? You're overestimating yourself. She struck out with her palm, and a scarlet flame erupted. The claw energy was forcibly shattered, and Qiyu was blasted into the mountain wall by the palm energy. This stinky snake is indeed very strong. Red Moon cursed under his breath. Lung Ningyu, who walked out of the cave, saw that Qiyu was injured. She raised her hand and sent out a palm strike. The violent power of ice and snow enveloped the Crimson Serpent King daughter. You're still able to remain clear-headed after being hit by my poisonous flames. TSK, the path of abandoning love is indeed not a joke. Crimson Serpent Monarch activated her divine ability. Flames revolved around her body and then whizzed out, burning and melting the ice and snow around her. Joy Seal. Not far away, Qiyu activated his Monarch art again. He formed a mysterious hand seal with both hands and launched it at the Chilean princess. It was completely different from the heart-shredding claw from before. This seal contained a sense of joy, and it made people smile uncontrollably. The 7 Emotions Sex Monarch art is indeed interesting. Unfortunately, your cultivation is not enough. Crimson Serpent King easily shattered the joy seal. Then, a poisonous flame flew out from her fingertip and drilled into Qiyu's body. 1 is a gift, 2 is also a gift. Why don't I let you two sisters enjoy the true joy of the world together? Not far away, Li Salong's eyes lit up as he watched from the void. This Crimson Serpent King was planning to let the two sisters suffer together? Qiyu was also a first-class beauty. In terms of appearance alone, she was not inferior to Lung Ningyu. One was as cold as an iceberg, while the other was as passionate as fire. If he could enjoy them together, wouldn't that be the true beauty of the world? Thinking of this, Li Salong was extremely excited. He rubbed his hands and couldn't wait. Don't worry. It's not a real desperate situation yet. I must let Ningyu feel true despair before I help her. Only then can I leave the deepest impression in her heart. Lung Ningyu, I don't believe that I can't move you with this. You must belong to me, Li Salong said with a fiery gaze. He had pursued Lung Ningyu for so many years, but she had never been moved. Hence, he could only resort to this method. She heard that Chu Kuangren had saved Lung Ningyu before, which was why she invited him to the 7 Emotions sect. In other words, saving the damsel in distress would work on Lung Ningyu. This time he must succeed. Even if he could not win her heart in the end, he would still want her body. Smelly snake, what did you do to me? As the fire desire poison entered her body, Qiyu could only feel an uncontrollable heat boiling within her. She could not help but blush. Chiyu. Lung Ningyu's expression changed. She wanted to go forward to check on her, but was stopped by the Crimson Serpent King. You can't even protect yourself, so why are you still in the mood to care about others? The Crimson Serpent King sneered. She waved her hand and easily knocked the heavily injured Lung Ningyu to the ground. She then stepped on her chest and said condescendingly, "You're the 7 Emotions Sex Maiden Sage. Hey, you're nothing but an ant under my feet now. I can crush you if I want to." She slowly raised her hand, and the crimson poisonous flames condensed into a long saber. With a gentle wave, she could easily decapitate Lung Ningyu. "Now it's my turn to attack," Li Longzi said excitedly. He was about to cooperate with the Crimson Serpent King to put on a good show of saving the damsel in distress. However, at that moment, a sword chi suddenly flew towards them from afar. The sword chi locked onto the Crimson Serpent King, causing her expression to change slightly. This sword chi, how could it be? How could Li Longzi have such strength? The sword chi made the Crimson Serpent King's scalp tingle. Crimson Serpent God Slash. The Crimson Serpent King gathered the poisonous flames in her body onto the long saber in her hand. With a slash of her saber, the fiery red saber ray turned into a giant python that shot towards the sky. The moment the two forces collided, the ground around them shook. The Crimson Serpent King could not help but stumble back a few dozen feet from the huge impact. She then looked into the distant sky with a solemn expression. In the sky, a figure was walking in the air towards her. He was dressed in white and had black hair. He was handsome and otherworldly, and behind him was a woman whose charm was no less than the Crimson Serpent King. That woman was also holding a strange wooden puppet in her hand. It was Chu Kuangren and the mystic sword guard Jian Changfeng. Interesting. I say, Brother Lung, the last time I saved you, you were being chased by the glacial frost python. This time, you're being chased by the Crimson Serpent King. I say, Brother Lung, don't tell me you were a snake catcher in your past life. Otherwise, why are you always being targeted by these people? Chu Kuangren slowly walked towards Lung Ningyu and said with a smile. Meanwhile, Lung Ningyu looked at Chu Kuangren's smiling face, and could not come back to her senses for a while. It was him again. He was the one who saved her again. It had happened twice in a row. Could this be fate? Not far away, Li Salong's face was ashen. He was so angry that he almost went berserk. He punched the tree trunk next to him. Chu Kuangren, why is it you again? You were the one who came out to mess things up the last time. Why is it still you this time? You're just trying to mess with me, aren't you? Chapter 578. Not far away, Li Salong was so angry that he almost went crazy. He had painstakingly planned this heroic rescue plan, but now it was all over. He glared at Chu Kuangren as if he wanted to devour him. No, it might not fail. The Crimson Serpent Princess is a forbidden sky pride. As long as she can defeat Chu Kuangren, the outcome will be the same, or even better. Li Salong seemed to have thought of something, and a look of hope appeared on his face. That was right. If Chu Kuangren was defeated by the Crimson Serpent Princess, and he appeared to save everyone, would that not make him look better than Chu Kuangren? At that thought, Li Salong calmed himself down a little, and waited for the situation to develop. However, compared to Li Salong's optimism, the Crimson Serpent Princess looked at Chu Kuangren with fear. Her instinct as a wild beast told her that the white-robed young man before her was very dangerous. Very dangerous. It felt like she was facing a predator that was even more ferocious than herself. After all, she was an ancient wild beast, the Crimson Serpent ruler. In this world, the only predators that could be more ferocious than her were the extinct primordial descendants. Who are you? The Crimson Serpent ruler looked at Chu Kuangren in fear. The spiritual power within its body had already started to circulate like a dormant poisonous snake, ready to strike at any time. That's not important. What's important is that Sister Lung and I know each other, so we're considered friends. You can't kill her, Chu Kuangren said calmly. He had exchanged emperor techniques with the 7 Emotions sect, and they had provided him with a place to go into closed-door cultivation. Moreover, he had saved the Cold Moon Fairy. Compared to his enemies, the the swordsmen and the Wangs, the Seven Emotions sect was considered half an ally to him. How could he stand by and watch when his ally was in danger? If you want to save her, we'll have to see if you have the ability to do so. The Crimson Serpent Princess knew that Chu Kuangren was very strong, but as a Forbidden Sky Pride, she was not one to back down easily. She raised her hand and activated her divine ability. The Crimson Serpent poisonous flame turned into a sea of fire and poured out. Chu Kuangren did not move an inch. He did not even use the long sword at his waist. Instead, he merely pointed his finger, and a sword chi instantly shot out from his fingertip. The sword chi was like a ray of light that carried a peerlessly overbearing aura of the sword Dao that seemed capable of obliterating everything. In the blink of an eye, the blazing sea of flames was torn into two by the sword chi. What? Crimson Serpent Queen's expression changed slightly. After the sword chi tore through the sea of fire, it rushed towards her like a hot knife through butter. She swung the long saber in her hand, which was formed from the poisonous flames. After an explosion, she was sent flying more than 1,000 feet away, and she could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Who is he? How can he be so powerful? The Crimson Serpent Princess's face was filled with confusion and fear. However, Chu Kuangren did not give him a chance to explain. With a flick of his finger, another surge of sword chi condensed at the tip of his finger. No, I can't take this sword. I'll die. The Crimson Serpent Princess panicked. At this moment, Li Salong couldn't sit still any longer. He had a deal with the Scarlet Serpent Queen, so he naturally couldn't let her die so easily. With a wave of his sleeve, a cloud of grayish-white powder flew out. As he channeled his spiritual power, the powder merged with the wind and formed a mist in the blink of an eye, shrouding Chu Kuangren, the Crimson Serpent Princess, and the others. Demon, don't you dare hurt Ningyu. Li Salong rushed out and attacked the Crimson Serpent Princess with his palm. Chu Kuangren watched from the side with a playful look in his eyes. He then retracted the sword chi at the tip of his finger. When Li Salong's palm landed on the Crimson Serpent Princess's body, she used the force of the palm to retreat into the mist and instantly disappeared. Apart from blocking one's sight, the mist could also isolate one's spiritual thoughts, which made it very suitable for escaping. Brother Chu, Ningyu and the others are heavily injured. Let's leave first. Otherwise, it'll be bad if the Crimson Serpent Princess comes back. Li Salong said as he looked at Lung Ningyu worriedly. Chu Kuangren sneered. If you didn't appear just now, I would have chopped that snake and turned it into snake soup. With a wave of his sleeve, the sword chi formed a violent gust of wind that blew away the surrounding mist. However, the Crimson Serpent Princess was nowhere to be seen. Dao friend Chu, don't be careless. That's an ancient ferocious beast with strange methods. Moreover, Ningyu and the others are severely injured. If it wasn't for me making a move and using the poison mist to scare it away, who knows what would have happened next? Li Longzi said with a solemn expression. Chu Kuangren smirked when he heard that. If that's the case, then I should thank you for saving us. You don't have to thank me. Let's heal Ningyu first. Li Salong walked up to check on Lung Ningyu's injuries. His expression changed and he said awkwardly, Ningyu has been poisoned by the Crimson Serpent's poison fire. This poison fire is different from the Cold Moon Fairies. This poison fire will trigger one's lust, so one must use the yin and yang intercourse technique to expel the poison fire. Otherwise, Ningyu might lose her life. Vulsh *T. At that moment, Red Moon walked up to them. She did not have a good impression of Li Salong. Get lost. However, her current situation was not optimistic either. Her face was flushed red, and her curses were soft. Her gaze gradually became blurry. Red Moon, it's more important to save someone. Please forgive me. Li Salong lifted his arms to carry Lung Ningyu into the cave, but she pushed him away. Lung Ningyu looked at Chu Kuangren and recalled what her honorable master had said to her that day. She looked at Chu Kuangren and said, Brother Chu, are you willing to save my life again? It's nothing. Chu Kuangren smiled. Ningyu, do you really want to give yourself to this person? We've known each other for so many years. Am I not better than him? Li Salong wanted to fight for a little longer. However, Lung Ningyu said indifferently, Honorable Master has said that the Seven Emotions sect has nothing to do with you two anymore. Ningyu, that was a mistake made by Honorable Master. It has nothing to do with me. Brotherly, there's no need to say anything more. Hearing that, Li Salong's heart was already dead. He looked at Red Moon, and saw that she was also poisoned by the poison fire. He took a deep breath and said, "Then let me cure Brother Red Moon." Red Moon was also a beautiful woman. Even if he could not get Lung Ningyu, getting Red Moon was already a blessing. However, Red Moon looked at him in disgust and then turned to Chu Kuangren. She gritted her teeth and said, "Brother Chu, can you handle me?" Her question was bold and direct. The succubus sword guard beside her felt a little embarrassed. Chu Kuangren was immediately displeased. Was this girl doubting his ability? If not for the fact that he had other ways to cure the poison, he would definitely let her know how powerful he was. Of course. All right, I'll be troubling you then, Brother Chu. Li Salong was dumbfounded. Can't you be like this? Not even one of them is left for me? The succubus sword guard looked at Lung Ningyu and Red Moon enviously, and then looked at Li Salong with disdain. What kind of joke is this? With a master here, any woman would choose a master. Succubus sword guard, watch him. Chu Kuangren looked at Li Salong and said to the succubus sword guard. He then used his mind power to carry Lung Ningyu and Red Moon into the cave. Behind him, Li Salong's eyes were red. He had worked so hard, but all his hard work had gone to someone else. Chapter 579. Inside the cave. Chu Kuangren placed Lung Ningyu and Red Moon on the ground. Although Lung Ningyu was a cultivator of the Tao of forgetfulness, her face had begun to redden due to the primal impulse within her. It was the first time she felt this way. Meanwhile, Red Moon could no longer hold it in. She rushed towards Chu Kuangren and hugged him. Her eyes were misty as she tried to kiss him. Chu Kuangren blocked her with his hand and said, "You wish to take advantage of me? Dream on. Brother Chu, I've already given it my all. Why are you still so shy? Hurry up." Chu Kuangren looked at Red Moon. Why did she look so eager? Was he the one who was at a disadvantage? Beside him, Lung Ningyu took a deep breath and began to undress. Although she had never experienced something like this before, she had occasionally heard about it from her junior sisters, so she knew what to do. Chu Kuangren watched from the side and stopped her. Wait. Brother Chu, are you even a man? How can you be so hesitant in front of two beauties like us? If you continue like this, we'll both die. Red Moon said with dissatisfaction. She could no longer control the surging desire within her. Don't worry, I won't let you die. However, who told you that this is the only way to cure the poison? Chu Kuangren said with a laugh. He pushed away Red Moon, who was constantly tugging at his clothes, and used his mind power to control the two. What a joke. Was it that easy to take advantage of Chu Kuangren? Guard your mind and channel your spiritual power, according to my command, Chu Kuangren said. He then raised his hand and gathered the surrounding water qi into needles, which he then inserted into the two women's bodies. After all, he was a top-notch healer. He could even cure Lung Yu Fairy's poison fire that had plagued her for years, let alone the two women's poison fire. It was child's play to him. Juk by Hui Chi Hai Sanin, Chu Kuangren's voice rang out. Every time he inserted a water needle, he guided the two women's spiritual power to circulate. The poison fire in the two women's bodies was gradually enveloped by the water qi, and began to be expelled from their fingertips. Outside the cave, Li Salong paced on the spot. He gritted his teeth at the thought of what might happen inside the cave, wanting to rush in and kill Chu Kuangren. However, he did not have the courage to do so. Not to mention the fact that he was no match for Chu Kuangren. He might not even be able to defeat the mystic sword guards that were guarding outside the cave. Looking at the enchanting sword guards, his eyes couldn't help but reveal a hint of surprise. It was obvious that the other party was a woman who did not pale in comparison to Lung Ningyu. But her style was completely different. She was gentle and seductive, a rare beauty. Li Salong's heart was filled with jealousy towards Chu Kuangren. Why? Why was Chu Kuangren always surrounded by such beautiful women? Was it because he was more handsome than her? I heard from Daoist Chu that you're a mystic sword guard. Are you from the sword race? Li Salong asked curiously. So what if I am? The mystic sword guard calmly looked at the other party. There were no fluctuations in his eyes, as if he was looking at an object. If Chu Kuangren had not asked her to keep an eye on Li Salong, she probably would not have even looked him in the eye. But I heard that the sword race and fellow Daoist Chu are mortal enemies. I wonder why Miss is following him around? Are you threatened by him? Li Salong said, trying to find something that would harm Chu Kuangren. When the mystic sword guard heard that, she knew that the other party was trying to drive a wedge between her and Chu Kuangren. A cold glare flashed across her eyes as she said, "Keep your thoughts to yourself. If you dare to harbor any ill intentions towards our master, I have 100 ways to make your life a living hell." Master. When Li Salong heard how the mystic sword guard addressed Chu Kuangren, he was once again filled with jealousy. The mystic sword guard should be one of the top sky prides in the sword race, yet she was willing to acknowledge Chu Kuangren as her master. Did that not mean that Chu Kuangren could do whatever he wanted to her? The asterisk eminent. Where did Chu Kuangren get so much luck with women? Li Salong roared in his heart. After being snubbed by the mystic sword guard, Li Salong did not ask any more questions. The more he looked at the cave, the more frustrated he became. He got up and wanted to leave. However, at that moment, a sword ray flashed past him. The mystic sword guard said coldly, "Since our master did not allow you to leave, you better stay here obediently. Otherwise, I won't mind chopping off your legs." After all, Chu Kuangren did say not to let Li Salong leave, not to hurt him. Li Salong was furious, but when he saw the mystic sword guard's cold glare, he lost his confidence. All right, I'll stay here." Li Salong found a large rock and sat down. Secretly, he was already thinking of ways to deal with Chu Kuangren. He was definitely no match for Chu Kuangren in a one-on-one fight. Even if he had the opportunity of fortune that could boost his strength in a short period of time, it would still be difficult for him to fight against Chu Kuangren. He could only rely on others. If the Crimson Serpent Princess obtained the Red Lotus Miasma Fire, she might be able to deal with Chu Kuangren. At that thought, Li Salong looked at the cave with a deep hatred in his eyes. "Chu Kuangren, you have taken the woman I want, so I will make you pay for it." At that moment, inside the cave, Chu Kuangren had already used the water vapor to force out the poisonous flames from the two women's bodies. The moment the poisonous flames were forced out, they felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted off their shoulders. They could not help but let out a high-pitched moan. Outside the cave, Li Salong's lungs almost exploded when he heard the sound. He stood there, listening to the sounds of his beloved women making love to another man. The feeling was so unbearable that he almost vomited blood. Inside the cave, Chu Kuangren looked at the two poisonous flames in front of him with a playful look on his face. One of the poisonous flames was nothing special, but the one that was expelled from Lung Ningyu's body was mixed with something else. It was a strange powder. Coincidentally, Chu Kuangren knew what that powder was. The powder made from the snow jade brood motherworm is described in the Doctor's Inheritance. It is a rare healing material, but at the same time, the snow jade brood motherworm has the characteristic of attracting each other, and can be used to track one's position. Why does fellow Daoist Lung have this in his body? It was mixed with the poisonous flames by the Crimson Serpent Princess. However, this thing is very rare. If one is not a physician, very few would recognize it, let alone use it. Chu Kuangren thought of Li Salong outside the cave. Li Salong's honorable master Li was a physician, so it made sense if Li Salong had this thing. Besides, Chu Kuangren suddenly appeared here, and helped the Crimson Serpent Princess escape, when Chu Kuangren could have killed her. No matter how he thought about it, there must be something fishy going on. Is this Li Salong together with the Crimson Serpent Princess? However, a snake and a human. What kind of connection could there be between them? Chu Kuangren rubbed his chin. The more he thought about it, the more he found it interesting. It seemed like there was another game to play. Chapter 580. Brother Chu, has our poison been cured? Red Moon looked at Chu Kuangren and asked curiously. Of course. Do you still not believe in my abilities? Of course I do. I almost forgot, Brother Chu. If you can cure our honorable teacher's fire poison, then the Crimson Serpent Princess's poison is nothing to you. Red Moon shook her head and said, she was affected by the fire poison back then, so she did not think about it. Chu Kuangren saw her shaking her head and could not help but say, why do you look a little disappointed? Ahem, no. Red Moon coughed twice. In fact, she was secretly looking forward to something happening between her and Chu Kuangren. After all, who would not love a strong and handsome young man? Oh! Chu Kuangren glanced at her and ignored her. He then got up and walked out of the cave. Compared to the two ladies, he was more interested in Li Salong. He was very curious about the relationship between him and the Crimson Serpent Princess. Let's go, senior sister. Red Moon pulled Lung Ningyu, who had been stunned ever since the fire poison was expelled. However, Lung Ningyu looked at Chu Kuangren's back and said softly, Red Moon, I think I feel something. What feeling? Is the fire poison not completely expelled? Red Moon's expression changed slightly. No, honorable teacher told me to fall in love with Brother Chu. I feel like I'm in love with him now. What? Outside the cave. The Phantom Blade Sentinel looked at Li Salong. Jian Changfeng was lying motionlessly in the bushes, basking in the sun. Anyone who passed by would only think that he was an ordinary piece of wood. Chu Kuangren walked out of the cave. Red Moon and Lung Ningyu followed behind him. Their faces were still flushed. That was because the fire poison had just been expelled, and their body temperature had not completely dropped. However, to Li Salong, it was a sign that the two ladies had been nourished. He was so frustrated that he did not know what to say. All he felt was that the scene in front of him was too glaring. Master. At that moment, the Phantom Blade Sentinel greeted them. She stole a glance at the two ladies, her eyes filled with envy. Chu Kuangren looked at Li Salong and smiled. Now, it's time to settle the score between us. Li Salong, who was about to say something, heard Chu Kuangren's words and his expression changed. Brother Chu, what do you mean by that? You know very well what I mean. Please enlighten me, fellow Taoist Chu. Tell me, why did you suddenly appear here? I came to the desolate Forbidden Land to gain experience, and suddenly passed by this place. Can't I? Oh, then why did you save the Scarlet Serpent Queen when I was about to kill her? How would I know that you could kill him? I just saw that Ningyu's life was in danger. That's why I made a move and used the poison mist to scare him away. Is that so? How can I believe you with such a coincidence? Charm Sword Guard, take him down. Chu Kuangren said indifferently. The charming sword guard didn't say a word. His figure flashed as he rushed towards Li Salong. His fallen darkness aura instantly erupted. This is too much. Li Salong's expression changed as he raised his hand to attack the charming sword guard. Their energies collided and both of them were pushed back. As a top-notch sky pride, Li Salong's strength was naturally not ordinary. Aside from his medical skills, he also had two emperor techniques. Oh, your strength is not bad. The charming sword guard was slightly surprised. Then, a long sword suddenly appeared in her hand and she attacked again. This time, it was more powerful than before. In just a few moves, Li Salong was already having a hard time defending himself. Ningyu, are you just going to watch Chu Kuangren act like this? I was just trying to save you just now, Li Salong said loudly. However, Lung Ningyu did not respond. She simply said, I believe in Brother Chu's judgment. Li Salong was furious. Ningyu, have you forgotten about our years of friendship just because you had sex with him once? Without waiting for Lung Ningyu to reply, Red Moon, who was beside her, said, Bullsh *T. What friendship do you have with us? You're the one who's been pestering my senior sister all these years. And your honorable teacher, you even tried to threaten my honorable teacher into giving herself to him. Both of you are not good people. Li Salong was so angry that he was speechless. He felt like he was fighting alone. Everyone here, except for himself, was on Chu Kuangren's side. Let's leave first, Li Salong said before his figure turned into a stream of light and flew into the distance. At that moment, a palm attack arrived behind Li Salong and landed on his body, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood. The attacker was none other than Chu Kuangren. Jian Changfeng, the figurine beside him, was shocked. His master's attack did not kill Li Salong. That did not make sense. Wait a minute. That palm attack just now was a little weak. Jian Changfeng looked at the calm Chu Kuangren curiously. What is my master planning this time? Chu Kuangren, I'll definitely take revenge for this. Li Salong roared as he took out a needle and pricked it on his head. His aura instantly skyrocketed before he turned into a stream of light and disappeared on the spot. Using a secret technique to forcefully increase his strength was just to escape. He knew that even if he used a secret technique, he was still no match for Chu Kuangren. Don't go. The Phantom Blade Sentinel wanted to give chase, but was stopped by Chu Kuangren. There's no need to chase after him. Master, I'm useless. I didn't make him stay. The Phantom Blade Sentinel blamed himself. However, Chu Kuangren did not blame him. He said indifferently, if I really wanted to stay, even 10 of him wouldn't be able to escape. He raised his hand and picked up a pouch from the ground. It was something that fell off Li Salong's body when he landed a palm attack on him. What's this? The Phantom Blade Sentinel asked curiously. A bug. Chu Kuangren said. It was unclear if he was talking about the item in the pouch or Li Salong who had escaped. A bug? The Phantom Blade Sentinel was confused. Phantom Blade Sentinel, here's your new mission. Chu Kuangren tossed the pouch to the Phantom Blade Sentinel. The Phantom Blade Sentinel quickly caught it and half knelt on the ground. Please give me your orders, master. Li Salong activated his secret technique and quickly escaped. After making sure that no one was chasing after him, he breathed a sigh of relief and took out the silver needles on his head. Then he spat out a mouthful of blood and his face turned pale. D****. D****. Chu Kuangren, I'll definitely take revenge for this. And Lung Ningyu and Red Moon, I won't let you go either, you two be *cheese. At that moment, all he wanted to do was to seek revenge on Chu Kuangren, and he even hated Lung Ningyu and Red Moon. To him, those two were no longer pure and were no longer worthy of him. If that was the case, then he would destroy them. Let's find the Crimson Serpent Princess first. Only these forbidden sky prides can fight against Chu Kuangren. Li Salong put away the silver needles and was about to leave when he suddenly realized that the pouch that contained the Snow Jade Brood Mother Worm had disappeared from his waist. He frowned. I don't know where it went when I was escaping just now. He did not care. Since he had already left Lung Ningyu, the Snow Jade Brood Mother Worm was no longer of any use to him, so he did not mind losing it. Now he had to think of a way to deal with Chu Kuangren first. Chapter 581. Inside the Barren Forbidden Land. After Chu Kuangren rescued Lung Ningyu and Red Moon, he assigned a mission to the Mystic Sword Guards. At this time, other than the Mystic Sword Guards who were on a mission, Chu Kuangren, Lung Ningyu, Red Moon, Jian Changfeng, and the figurine Jian Changfeng were gathered together. The few of them were chatting. Lung Ningyu had arrived earlier than Chu Kuangren, so she knew more about the barren forbidden area. She was explaining the current situation within the forbidden area to Chu Kuangren. Among them, the prodigies of the various forbidden grounds all had their own fortuitous encounters. They were the strongest in the forbidden grounds and were currently exploring the depths of the forbidden grounds. The entire desolate forbidden land was divided into the outer area, the inner area, and the core area. The deeper one went, the greater the fortuitous opportunity. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren, Lung Ningyu, and the others were currently at the border between the outer and inner zone. Most of the extreme cultivators and forbidden sky prides were in the inner zone. As for the core region, because there were still a large number of restrictions that hadn't been completely undone, no one had been able to enter. Just as they were talking, the communication compass at Chu Kuangren's waist had already sent him a message from the Magic Sword Guard. Oh, I've caught up. Somewhere in the barren forbidden land. Chilean Princess was recuperating at this time. She said with lingering fear, I didn't expect such a genius to exist. It's unbelievable. She was a forbidden prodigy with incomparably tyrannical strength. However, they could not even withstand 2 attacks from Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren's strength was just too terrifying. A monarch. This person's combat strength is probably comparable to a monarch. If I want to fight against this person, I need to raise my strength to that of a peak quasi-emperor. At that time, with the Scarlet Refinement Poison Fire, I will barely be able to fight against him. Judging from Chu Kuangren's sword chi, the Crimson Serpent Princess guessed that Chu Kuangren's spiritual power was at the level of a top-tier boundary emperor. Even among the forbidden prodigies, there weren't many who could become a quasi-emperor, let alone a peak quasi-emperor. Princess, I'm here. At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared. It was Li Salong. Seeing him, the Crimson Serpent Monarch's expression darkened. A large part of the reason she was injured was because of this person, so she didn't have a good expression and coldly said, "Who is that person? You better give me an explanation." Li Salong told him everything he knew about Chu Kuangren and added, "I didn't know this person would suddenly appear." Chu Kuangren, the one who single-handedly defeated a few Forbidden Sky Prides? He is indeed extraordinary. His appearance has completely disrupted our plans. With him here, it will be very difficult to deal with Lung Ningyu. The Crimson Serpent Queen's face was gloomy. Of course I know that. I have returned this time to lend Princess a hand. Oh, you plan to tell me the whereabouts of the Red Lotus Miasma Fire? The Scarlet Serpent Queen's eyes lit up. The reason she was willing to cooperate with Li Salong was because of the Red Lotus Miasma Fire. That's right. Your Highness may not be a match for Chu Kuangren's current strength, but that might not be the case once you've refined the Red Lotus Miasma Fire. Very good. Don't worry. After I refine the Red Lotus Miasma Fire, I will keep my promise. Ningyu will belong to you. No, I want those two bitches to die together. Li Salong snorted coldly with hatred in his eyes. The Crimson Serpent Queen was a little surprised. Then, as if she had understood something, a playful smile appeared on her face. It seems that my poison flame has taken effect after all. It's just that you can't win against Chu Kuangren. Well, it makes sense. His face is way better than yours. If it were me, I would choose him too. Princess, you better watch your words. Otherwise, I can find someone else to cooperate with. Li Salong's expression darkened. Face. Do these women only know how to look at faces? Every single one of them was so mesmerized by Chu Kuangren that even his enemy, the Crimson Serpent Queen, had to praise Chu Kuangren in front of him. Is there still justice in this world? Alright, I understand. The Crimson Serpent Queen shrugged and said. A hint of disdain flashed across her eyes, but she hid it so well that Li Salong did not see it. Let's go. The Red Lotus Miasma Fire is still some distance away from here. Alright. The Crimson Serpent Queen was instantly excited at the mention of the Red Lotus Miasma Fire. She could not wait any longer. Not long after the two of them left, a ghostly black figure appeared. That person was the Mystic Blade Sentinel who had been secretly following Li Salong. She was proficient in Darkness Dao and Concealment Dao. Even a Forbidden Sky Pride like the Crimson Serpent Queen would have a hard time noticing her from a certain distance. Just as Master expected, this Li Salong is indeed related to the Crimson Serpent Queen, so it's because of the Red Lotus Miasma Fire. No wonder the Crimson Serpent Queen is willing to cooperate with him. Send a message to Master. After sending the message, the Mystic Blade Sentinel took out the Snow Jade Queen Worm and continued to follow Chu Kuangren. About a day later, Li Salong and the Crimson Serpent Queen arrived at a swamp. The swamp contained a large amount of miasma, so it was completely gray and blurry. There was no way to see what was inside. There's a Red Lotus Miasma Fire here? The Crimson Serpent Queen frowned. This place is filled with water vapor. How can a heavenly flame be born here? I have no reason to lie to you. Just follow me. Li Salong said calmly before he swallowed an antidote pill and walked into the miasma. The miasma contained a deadly poison. If one did not take precautions, even a boundary emperor would be poisoned to death on the spot. However, the Crimson Serpent Queen was unafraid. She had the body of a ferocious beast and mastered the Red Lotus poisonous fire. This miasma might be poisonous to others, but it was like fresh air to her, making her feel very comfortable. When the two walked into the miasma, the charmed sword guard appeared and looked at the miasma with some difficulty. I don't have an antidote pill on me. If I barge in rashly, I'm afraid my life will be in danger. I will also expose my whereabouts and affect Master's plan. It's better to wait here for Master. At this time, the Crimson Serpent Queen and Li Salong had already begun to enter the swamp. Soon, the Crimson Witch saw a ball of crimson flame in the miasma in the distance. She also sensed a scorching fire attribute aura in the air. There really is a red lotus miasma fire here. That's natural. Although this place is a swamp, there is a fire-attributed earth vein passing through it. It combined with the poisonous miasma of this swamp and nourished it together, resulting in the birth of the red lotus miasma fire. However, this place is very hidden and people rarely come here. Master and I only discovered it when we came here to pick medicinal herbs. As the Crimson Serpent Queen spoke, Li Salong and the Crimson Serpent Queen had already approached the flame. Upon a closer look, it was a fiery red flame in the shape of a red lotus surrounded by fiery miasma. The Crimson Serpent Queen licked her lips and looked at the red lotus miasma fire with a fiery gaze. The red lotus miasma fire was a poisonous flame among poisonous flames. If she could refine it, it would be very beneficial to her. Wait, why is there another person? Suddenly, the Crimson Serpent Queen saw a figure under the red lotus miasma fire. It was a middle-aged man who was performing a series of hand seals. He was attempting to refine the red lotus miasma fire. That's my master, Taoist Li. What? Your master is refining the red lotus miasma fire here? Then why did you bring me here? Are you messing with me? The Crimson Serpent Queen said coldly. It's fine. He hasn't been completely refined and can't move. You just need to kill him. Li Salong said calmly. Chapter 582. You can just kill him. Li Salong said indifferently. The Crimson Serpent Princess was shocked. Is he really your master? Yes, but he's too useless. He couldn't even cure Cold Moon Fairy's illness, and caused me to break off my relationship with Ningyu. If he was really that capable, he wouldn't have pursued Cold Moon Fairy for so many years without success. If he was that capable, he would have brought me and Ningyu together. Then things wouldn't have gotten to this point. Li Salong said with a hint of resentment. He looked at his honorable master who taught him his skills with a cold gaze. Besides, with his abilities he won't be a match for Chu Kuangren even if he manages to refine this red lotus miasma fire. You're different. You're a forbidden sky pride. Only by refining it will you stand a chance against Chu Kuangren. I want Chu Kuangren and Lung Ningyu to pay the price. The Crimson Serpent Princess was amazed by his words. You've really changed my understanding of how despicable humans are. You really are filthy. Don't forget that I'm doing this to help you. Don't worry. I know that once I've successfully refined the red lotus miasma fire, I'll definitely avenge you. As the Crimson Serpent Princess spoke, she raised her hand and attacked Li Daoren from behind. Li Daoren was wholeheartedly focused on refining the red lotus miasma fire, so he was not very alert of his surroundings. He did not expect anyone to come to this miasma-filled swamp. The sudden attack sent him flying, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood. He was instantly injured. Who's there? Li Daoren's expression changed as he looked at the Crimson Serpent Princess. That person's body emanated an extremely powerful spiritual power that was mixed with a ferocious chi that was unique to a murderer. It was not something that he could fight against. Then he saw Li Salong not far away. In a flash, he stood in front of Li Salong and said without turning his head, "Leave quickly. This person is very powerful. I'll think of a way to hold her back." However, just as he finished speaking, a sword had already pierced through his chest from behind. Li Daoren looked at the tip of the sword in disbelief. How can this be? With a loud crack, the sword was pulled out of Li Daoren's body. Li Salong then raised his hand and struck Taoist Li's body, sending him flying. Taoist Li was first seriously injured by Chilean Princess, and then stabbed by Li Salong. At this time, he was already lying on the ground, barely breathing. "Salong, why would you do this?" Taoist Li couldn't believe what he was seeing. He looked at Li Salong with confusion and shock. Honorable teacher, you can't blame me for this. You can only blame yourself for being too useless to help me deal with Chu Kuangren. You rebellious disciple. Everything had happened too quickly, and Taoist Li still did not understand what had happened. However, being betrayed by his own disciple made him both angry and disheartened. Princess, it's up to you to send him on his final journey. Can't you do it? Li Salong sighed. He's my master after all. I can't do it. The Crimson Serpent Princess was dumbfounded. She had never seen such a shameless human before. That stab just now was so ruthless and smooth, and now he was telling her that he couldn't bear to do it? Humans really are hypocrites. The Chilean princess sneered before she unleashed a crimson venom fire onto Li Doran's body. The scorching venom fire soon burned Li Doran into a pile of charcoal. Li Salong stepped forward and retrieved a yin and yang ring from the charred corpse. He scanned through the items inside and revealed a satisfied smile. This old fart has been practicing medicine for so many years and has collected a lot of rewards. Looks like he still has a lot of good stuff hidden away. He took out a golden jade scroll that was engraved with mysterious runes. He even has this Emperor-grade Light Escape Talisman. The Light Escape Talisman was a type of rune that allowed one to turn into a stream of light and move at high speeds. The Emperor-grade Light Escape Talisman was even rarer. This item could be considered a treasure for escaping. Even an emperor might not be able to escape with this item. Now, let me refine this Red Lotus Miasma fire. The Chilean princess looked at the crimson flames in front of her and could not help but feel excited. She placed her hand into the flames. Instantly, wisps of flames entered her body through her arm. She was a ferocious beast that specialized in controlling venom fire. Her innate ability, the Crimson Venom Fire, allowed her to devour other venom fire to strengthen herself. Therefore, not only could the Red Lotus Miasma fire not hurt her, but it was also a peerless tonic for her. What a pure and huge amount of venom fire energy. It's really great. The Chilean princess revealed a joyful expression. The Red Lotus Miasma fire was one of the top venom fire in the world. It was a peerless treasure for any cultivator that cultivated the Tao of fire. The Chilean princess had absorbed many venom fire in the past, but none of them could compare to the Red Lotus Miasma fire she was currently absorbing. However, the purity and quantity of the energy were the same. Just as the Chilean princess was absorbing the Red Lotus Miasma fire, a sudden sword light cut through the miasma and easily cut off her arm. With a scream, the Chilean princess instantly retreated and looked at the source of the sword energy with vigilance. To be able to tear apart her ferocious beast body so easily. The person who unleashed this kind of sword chi was definitely not someone to be trifled with. Moreover, that sword chi gave her a very familiar feeling. It's him. It's definitely him. The Chilean princess stared at the miasma, and Li Salong was also shocked. Then, a figure slowly walked out of the miasma. The newcomer was dressed in white, and his jet-black hair danced in the wind. Behind him were three beautiful women. Who else could it be other than Chu Kuangren? He looked at the Red Lotus Miasma fire not far away and laughed. The Red Lotus Miasma fire. Ha, I didn't let you go in vain. Chu Kuangren, why are you here? Li Salong almost doubted his own eyes. Why is Chu Kuangren everywhere I go? Why does this guy have to ruin my plans every time? Wait, let me go. You did let me go on purpose, but how did you get here? Take a guess. Li Salong pondered for a while before he touched his waist where the Snow Jade Queen Worm was supposed to be. You've taken the Snow Jade Queen Worm that I lost. You're not that dumb after all. Chu Kuangren chuckled. That's what you're best at. When you hit me earlier, you didn't intend to kill me, but to inject the Snow Jade Queen Worm powder into my body. That's right. That worm powder was what you asked the Chilean princess to inject into Brother Lung's body. Li Salong's expression was extremely ugly. He did not expect that the method he used against Lung Ningyu would be used against him by Chu Kuangren. You idiot, you've caused me so much trouble. The Chilean princess gritted her teeth and glared at Li Salong before she said to Chu Kuangren. Brother Chu, Li Salong was the one who asked me to help him with this red lotus miasma fire as a reward. Every debt has a debtor, so you can settle it with him. It has nothing to do with me. As for this red lotus miasma fire, she glanced at the red lotus miasma fire and said unwillingly, I don't want it anymore. I'll give it to you, Brother Chu. She knew that she was no match for Chu Kuangren, and it was impossible for her to snatch the mysterious flame from him. Instead of fighting him head-on, it was better for her to think of a way to save herself first. Chapter 583. You almost killed me and senior sister, and now you're telling me that this has nothing to do with you? Do you think that's possible? Chiyu sneered. Chu Kuangren looked at the Crimson Serpent Princess without saying a word, but it was obvious that he shared the same opinion as Red Moon. The long sword at his waist made a clanging sound, and half of it was revealed. An extremely cold sword-based Taoist rhyme flowed out and shrouded the surroundings. Chu Kuangren, if you kill me, you'll be going against the entire Sky Serpent tribe. Think about it carefully. Is it really worth it? Crimson Serpent Queen gritted her teeth and said, Threaten? Interesting. I want to see exactly what the Heavenly Serpent clan can do to me after I kill you. Chu Kuangren said indifferently as his sword-based Taoist rhyme poured out. The Kunwu sword was unsheathed, and the piercingly cold sword light had already whistled out, tearing the ground in front of it as it aimed at the Crimson Serpent Princess. Let's go. Beside her, Li Salong suddenly grabbed the Crimson Serpent Queen and crushed a jade slip in his hand. In an instant, the two of them turned into a stream of light. Their speed was so fast that even Chu Kuangren's spatial conveyor technique could not react in time. Oh, what kind of life-saving treasure is this? He looked at the two people who had escaped with some surprise. Then he ignored them and turned to look at the red lotus miasma fire. Even 10 emperor-grade treasured herbs can't compare to a heavenly flame of this level. Chu Kuangren slowly extended his hand towards the red lotus miasma fire. At the side, the charm sword guard reminded, Master, this deviant flame contains poison. Please be careful. Yes, it's fine. Chu Kuangren nodded slightly. His hand had already reached into the red lotus miasma fire, and a large amount of the flames contained a type of poison that was rapidly corroding his body. Compared to the energy of the red lotus miasma fire, the poison was much weaker. Chu Kuangren had the body of a supreme sage, so his physique was even stronger than a ferocious beast's. Hence, the red lotus miasma fire's toxins had no effect on him at all. However, if one did not know how to deal with the violent energy of the mysterious flame, even a boundary emperor would be burned to ashes if they tried to forcefully absorb it. However, he possessed the heaven and earth cauldron physique, which allowed him to refine all kinds of energy in the world. And this red lotus miasma fire was within this category. With a single thought, an endless stream of heavenly flames instantly gushed into Chu Kuangren's body, and was quickly refined by the universal cauldron physique, converting them into spiritual power. Seeing that Chu Kuangren was refining the mystical flame, the mystic sword guard took the initiative to stand aside and protect him. The others, including Lung Ningyu and Chiyu, also set up barriers around them. A streak of light streaked across the sky and landed on a mountain peak. They were none other than Li Salong and the Crimson Serpent Princess who had escaped with the Emperor Great Escape Talisman. After the two of them escaped, they still had lingering fear in their hearts. They stood where they were for a long time, before they came back to their senses. Damn it. Damn it. After Li Salong roared with a gloomy face, he kept waving his palms and smashing everything around him. Rocks, plants, and so on, nothing was spared. The Crimson Serpent Queen's expression did not look any better. That was the red lotus miasma fire that she had been searching for a long time. Once she absorbed and refined it, her strength would definitely rise to another level. But now, one of her arms had been chopped off in her human form, let alone rising to a higher level. Chu Kuangren, I, the Crimson Serpent Queen, am not one to be taken advantage of. I'll remember this. She gritted her teeth and said. Then, she looked at Li Salong beside her and snorted. Have you vented enough? If you have, come and heal me. She had not fully recovered from her injuries, and Li Salong, who was a healer, could be of help. Princess, you'd better be more polite with your words. I was the one who saved you just now. But it's all thanks to you that I ended up like this. If it weren't for your stupidity, not knowing that you were poisoned by the bug powder." At the mention of the bug powder, the Crimson Serpent Queen's expression changed. "Idiot, hurry up and force the bug powder out of your body." The Snow Jade Brood Motherworm could locate each other. As long as the bug powder remained in Lisalong's body, he would not be able to shake off the Snow Jade Brood Motherworm. Upon hearing that, Lisalong panicked and immediately channeled his spiritual power. The bug powder was extremely difficult to detect in the body, but as the user of the Snow Jade Brood Motherworm and a healer, Lisalong naturally had a way to detect it. He took out a medicinal pill, consumed it, and channeled his spiritual power. Not long after, he spat out a mouthful of grayish-white blood, which was mixed with the bug powder that Chu Kuangren had injected into his body. "Let's go. We can't stay here any longer," the Crimson Serpent Queen said in a low voice. She then ran some distance away and arrived at a cave. She then set up a seal, and breathed a sigh of relief. Then Lisalong began to heal the Crimson Serpent Queen's injuries. At the same time, he was thinking about how to deal with Chu Kuangren. His Taoist core would not be stable if he did not take revenge. Chu Kuangren had taken away the person he loved and ruined his plans. In order to deal with Chu Kuangren, he was even willing to kill his own honorable teacher. It was impossible for him to stop now. That had become an obsession in his heart. Chu Kuangren, if I don't take revenge, I'll never be a human." The Crimson Serpent Queen had also noticed Lisalong's hatred towards Chu Kuangren. She sneered and said, "How are you going to take revenge on Chu Kuangren?" Lisalong was not even a Forbidden Sky Pride, so it was too difficult to deal with him. "I can't, but that doesn't mean others can't. You're looking for other Forbidden Sky Prides. Who do you think is a match for Chu Kuangren?" The Crimson Serpent Queen could not help but admit that Chu Kuangren was too strong. Even the Forbidden Sky Prides were no match for that kind of power. One Forbidden Sky Pride might not be a match for him, but what if many of them join forces? Besides, those Forbidden Sky Prides must have had a lot of opportunities of fortune in the barren Forbidden area, and have grown a lot. If they join forces, they might be able to defeat Chu Kuangren. What do you plan to do? Let's look for Jian Daozi first. Like me, he used to be Lung Ningyu's suitor. If he finds out about Lung Ningyu and Chu Kuangren, he won't just sit back and watch. Lisalong said coldly. He was no stranger to Jian Daozi. In the past, among Lung Ningyu's suitors, Jian Daozi and he were the most influential. Hence, Chu Kuangren regarded Jian Daozi as his biggest rival in love. However, he did not expect that Chu Kuangren would beat him to it before they could even hold Lung Ningyu's hand. Lisalong was thinking about who else besides Jian Daozi could make use of. Wang Quan of the Wang family? Bai Hongyu of the Bai family? Jiao Yen of the nine-headed snakelet tribe? If all these were not enough, Lisalong fumbled with the yin and yang ring in his hand. There was something hidden in Lisalong's yin and yang ring, and that thing was related to a terrifying existence. Unless it was absolutely necessary, Chu Kuangren did not want to take the risk to look for that terrifying existence. Inside the swamp, Chu Kuangren was still absorbing and refining the Red Lotus Miasma fire. The energy contained within the mysterious flame was so majestic that it was not any weaker than the Earth Vein Origin essence that he had refined in the past. About a day later, the majestic Earth Vein Origin essence was completely refined by him, turning it into a terrifying spiritual power that filled his spiritual mound. In his spiritual ruins, an incomparably rich spiritual power surrounded the 7 supreme foundations in his body like a vast ocean. Even a quasi-emperor would feel ashamed to see such a scale of spiritual power. Not only in terms of quantity, but also in terms of quality, no one could match up to it. This was also one of the sources of Chu Kuangren's tyrannical combat strength. Among those in the same realm, no one's spiritual power could compare to his. Chapter 584. Inside Chu Kuangren's spiritual mound, the 7 supreme foundation levels radiated with a divine light as vast spiritual power surrounded the foundation levels. However, at that moment, The overly pure and majestic spiritual power caused the Supreme Foundation levels to emit a dense golden mist. The 7 Supreme Foundation levels began to vibrate and slowly approached each other, as if they were resonating with each other. Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up. Could this be? He stared at the changes in the Supreme Foundation levels. The golden mist that was emitted from the Supreme Foundation levels condensed into a golden spiritual power. That spiritual power was of a much higher quality than the other spiritual powers. Although it was just a single strand, it gave off a majestic aura as if it could collapse the heavens. Chu Kuangren took a deep breath as his eyes lit up. This is the Emperor's essence. The Emperor's essence was the spiritual power used by emperors. Chu Kuangren had condensed an Emperor's essence that only emperors could. In the past, the primordial Emperor's essence had appeared in the firmament star, but that Emperor's essence and this Emperor's essence were 2 different concepts. That Emperor's essence contained a mysterious Taoist rhyme that was used to improve one's understanding of the Tao. It was equivalent to an external object. However, Chu Kuangren's Emperor's essence was cultivated by himself, so he could fully control it and greatly increase his combat strength. The Emperor's essence is far more terrifying than any cultivator's spiritual power. Although it's only 1 strand, it's not to be underestimated. It seems that the quality of my spiritual power has reached the limit of a boundary emperor. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to condense an emperor's essence that only emperors can. Chu Kuangren smiled in satisfaction. He had gained a lot from refining the Red Lotus miasma fire. After all, there were not many boundary emperors in the entire emperor's path who could condense an emperor's essence. Only the emperor realm cultivators could do so. As for the sky prides, even the forbidden sky prides, it was impossible without great opportunities of fortune. With just this emperor's essence, Chu Kuangren could crush most of the sky prides on the emperor's path. The resonance of the 7 Supreme Foundation levels gradually stopped, and the Golden Emperor's essence circulated within Chu Kuangren's body in a dazzling manner. After the Golden Emperor's essence circulated around his body once, it returned to his spiritual mound. Chu Kuangren felt that the Emperor's essence seemed to have grown a little stronger. After refining all of the Red Lotus miasma fire, Chu Kuangren slowly got up. His black hair fluttered in the wind. His eyes were as deep as the stars, and a terrifying aura emanated from his body. This pressure was the pressure of the Emperor Tao. Beside him, the expressions of the charm sword guards, Lung Ningyu and the others changed. This pressure caused their bodies to instinctively tremble. So strong. Master has become stronger again. Isn't his strength improving a little too quickly? Red Moon could not help but click his tongue in wonder. Let's leave, Chu Kuangren said as he led Lung Ningyu and the others away from the swamp. Once they were out of the swamp, Chu Kuangren used his spiritual thought to scan the area within a radius of a few 100,000 kilometers. There were more treasures here than in the place they had stayed before. Obviously, this was the inner circle of the desolate forbidden area. There should be many opportunities in the inner circle of the forbidden area. Do you have any clues, fellow Taoist Lung? Chu Kuangren asked Lung Ningyu, who was beside him. The desolate forbidden area was an ancient existence in the Emperor's path. There were very few records of emperors in the firmament star, let alone an ancient place like this. However, it was different for an ancient orthodoxy's inheritor, like Lung Ningyu. The ancient orthodoxy had a deep history, so her understanding of the desolate forbidden area must be much better than him. Therefore, she must know more than him. This was also one of the reasons why he brought her along. He needed someone who understood the situation to help him determine his next move. Some opportunities could not be found with the treasure locating skill alone. The 7 Emotions sect does have a lot of records about the desolate forbidden area. Among them, there are a few special great opportunities lands in the desolate forbidden area. Each time the forbidden area opens, all the sky prides will fight for it. For example, the ancient Cave of Treasures, the ancient Taoist Lake, the 8 Remoteness Dragon Mountain, and so on. Most of these great opportunities lands follow a certain pattern. According to my calculations, the ancient Cave of Treasures will open in a few days. Lung Ningyu pondered for a while and said. The more Chu Kuangren listened, the more amazed he was. Alright, then let's go to the ancient cave of treasures. Besides Chu Kuangren and his group, the other Sky Prides were also heading to the ancient cave of treasures. It was a great opportunities land that many Sky Prides did not want to miss. Inside a mountain range, a ray of red light suddenly shot into the sky, and a surge of surging energy instantly erupted, engulfing tens of thousands of kilometers. All living beings were pressed to the ground by this surge of energy, trembling in fear. That red light gradually revealed a silhouette. It was a woman dressed in bright red armor and holding a red longsword. It was Bai Hongyu from the Bai family. She sensed her own power in the air and smiled in satisfaction. The Emperor's body fragment is indeed not to be underestimated. It allowed me to directly break through to the boundary Emperor realm. I've long found my own Tao, and with this boundary Emperor realm and this sword, I can even fight a top-notch boundary Emperor. The ancient cave of treasures should be opening soon. It's time to go and see what kind of opportunities there are. Bai Hongyu murmured before she turned into a ray of red light and disappeared. Somewhere else, a dazzling five-colored light suddenly erupted from a cave. A figure dressed in a brocade robe slowly walked out of the light. That figure was bathed in the five-colored light and was surrounded by the five elements qi. It was as if a deity king had descended. My natural divine ability, the Divine Five Elements Wheel, has been upgraded. Not only that, but my cultivation has also improved greatly. Even if I were to face an Emperor Realm cultivator now, I won't be defeated so easily. Chu Kuangren, the next time we meet, I'll definitely surprise you. That person was Wang Quan from the Wang family. He looked into the distance and said, "It's time for me to explore the ancient cave of treasures and see how much I've improved." On a mountain peak, a young man opened his eyes abruptly, and a burst of sharp sword qi erupted from his eyes. The sword qi sliced through the surroundings, instantly tearing apart and destroying everything around him. I've completely refined the Sword Emperor's inheritance. I'm now very strong. Besides that, I've only refined 4 finger bones from the Sword Emperor's body. Even so, my cultivation has already reached the level of a top-notch boundary Emperor. Even if I've lost the 4 divine sword bestial, I've still gained a lot this time. Jian Daozi said excitedly. He took a deep breath and took out 2 swords. Both of them were Emperor weapons. They were the Gold Emperor Divine Sword of the Swordsman, and the Emerald Divine Sword of the Azure Sword Emperor. With these 2 Emperor weapons, Chu Kuangren, let's see how you're going to fight me this time. Jian Daozi was in high spirits at that thought. He looked into the distance. I hope I'll meet you in the ancient cave of treasures. When that time comes, I'll let you know that I'm the one who stands at the peak of Sword Dao in this era. At that moment, a jade scroll at Jian Daozi's waist vibrated. Is that the swordsman's signal? Jian Daozi was slightly surprised. In a flash, he disappeared from where he was and headed towards the source of the signal. Not long after, he arrived at the source of the signal. There he met a few people from the swordsman and a familiar face. It's you, Li Salong? Jian Daozi glanced at Li Salong, and then at the Crimson Serpent Princess beside him with a strange look in his eyes. Forbidden Sky Pride, Crimson Serpent Princess. Is something the two of you need from me? Jian Daozi said calmly as he looked at the Crimson Serpent Princess with a condescending look. Chapter 585. The Crimson Serpent Queen stared at Jian Daozi with a hint of fear in her eyes. She could sense an extremely powerful aura emanating from Jian Daozi, an aura that made her feel extremely threatened. The person before her was very powerful. It seems like Jian Daozi has encountered many opportunities of fortune in the barren forbidden area. The Crimson Serpent Queen smiled. Jian Daozi's expression was indifferent when he heard her words. Cut the crap. Tell me, why exactly are you looking for me? You. The Crimson Serpent Queen was a little angry, but she could only suppress her anger when she thought that Jian Daozi might be stronger than her. She took a deep breath and said, I'm looking for you because of Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren? Jian Daozi's eyes flashed coldly when he heard that name. You're looking for me because of him? What do you mean? Jian Daozi is very powerful, so let me ask you this. If you were to face Chu Kuangren, Do you have the confidence to win? Li Salong asked. Humph. If I meet him again, I'll show him with my sword who's the strongest in sword Dao. Oh, it seems like you're very confident. If that's the case, I have a very unfortunate news for you. Lung Mingyu is already with Chu Kuangren. Li Salong said. Say that again. Jian Daozi's expression darkened. Lung Mingyu is already with Chu Kuangren. Not only that, but they even have intimate relations. What? Jian Daozi's expression changed drastically when he heard that news. He was so furious that countless sword qi shot out from his body and swept across the area. In an instant, the ground around them was torn apart by the sword qi. Li Salong and the Crimson Serpent Queen were both under extreme pressure. They were extremely surprised that Jian Daozi had improved so much. At the same time, Li Salong was quite happy. To him, the stronger Jian Daozi was, the more confident he would be in dealing with Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren. Jian Daozi roared into the sky, his eyes red. Jian Daozi, please calm down. I too hate Chu Kuangren to the core. I'm here to cooperate with you to defeat him. Jian Daozi took a deep breath and calmed himself down. He knew that Li Salong, like him, was once Lung Mingyu's suitor, so he should hate Chu Kuangren just as much. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Hence, Jian Daozi did not reject the offer. All right, if that's the case, let's head to the ancient cave of myriad treasures together. Perhaps Chu Kuangren will head there. A fierce battle had broken out in a certain mountain forest. The two combatants were a silver-haired woman and a tiger-like ferocious beast with two heads. The two sides fought fiercely, and the surrounding mountains were shattered one after another. Roar! The two heads of the vicious beast roared, and a terrifying sound wave mixed with violent spiritual energy pushed the woman back. The silver-haired woman stood proudly in the air, wearing a gorgeous silver-white armor with runes flowing on it. It was incomparably mystical. The woman's silver hair fluttered in the wind, and her beautiful face had a rarely seen valiant expression. Her entire body exuded a sacred aura, making her seem like a Valkyrie. Judgment of light. A large amount of light qi gathered in the silver-haired woman's hand and turned into a white spear. With a yell, she threw it out. The spear moved like lightning and pierced into one of the ferocious beast's heads. Then the spear exploded, and the terrifying light qi instantly blasted the head apart. Then a large amount of white flames spread out and attached themselves to the ferocious beast's body, burning it. The white flames were extremely terrifying and difficult to extinguish. No matter how hard the ferocious beast struggled, it could not break free. All it could do was let out a series of painful howls. Not far away, a group of cultivators in white robes watched the scene with awe in their eyes. She's too strong. I can't believe the maiden sage has mastered the divine light flame technique to such a level in such a short time. Yeah, the supreme holy body is indeed the most suitable for this technique. The maiden sage must have been guided by the deity king for her to come to our sect. The cultivators whispered to each other. Among the crowd, there was a pair of eyes that looked at the gorgeous silver-white figure with complicated emotions. It was a young man. As he looked at the silver-white figure, his eyes were filled with cold jealousy and hatred, but it was also mixed with affection. It was a very contradictory feeling. At that moment, a hand landed on the young man's shoulder. It was an old man in the crowd. He said lightly, "Bear with it for a few more days. All of this will eventually belong to you, my lord sage." "I understand, elder." Boom. Another spear shot out. The two-headed ferocious beast could no longer resist the silver-haired woman, and was completely killed. After doing all that, the woman came in front of the ferocious beast and dug out a crystal from its body. This was the ferocious beast's spirit crystal. It was something similar to a cultivator's golden core. Generally speaking, it was useless to human warriors. The spirit crystal of the ferocious beast contained too much spirit qi, so it was difficult for human cultivators to absorb it. But the woman grabbed the crystal, and a white flame rose from her palm. After a while, the tyrannical aura on the spiritual power crystal gradually disappeared. The cultivation technique she practiced was special. It could actually purify the tyrannical qi on the surface, making it easier to absorb the spiritual power crystal. "Saintess, you have become even stronger." The group of white-robed cultivators walked up, and an old man said with a smile. The silver-haired woman's expression was indifferent. She nodded slightly. Third elder, are there any other opportunities in this barren, forbidden land? Not far up ahead is a place called the Ancient Cave of Treasures. That place is a place of great fortune, and we can go there to fight for it. However, there will definitely be a large number of geniuses gathered there. At that time, it will be hard to avoid a fierce battle. This time, we came to the Forbidden Land to fight for opportunities. If we are afraid of a fierce battle, why did we come? Ha, you're right, Holy Maiden. Furthermore, with your current strength, even I might not be a match for you, let alone the other geniuses. This time around, Holy Maiden, you will definitely be able to come out on top. The young man walked up and said with a smile on his face. His words doubled the confidence of the other cultivators. The Lord Sage is a forbidden genius. Even he said so. It is obvious that the Saintess' strength is now. That's right. This time, the Saintess will definitely come first and let the world know how powerful the Divine Radiant cult is. The compliments from the crowd did not make the silver-haired woman happy at all. She looked into the distance and murmured, I wonder if the young master has come to this barren forbidden land. If he has, I wonder if we can meet him in the treasure ancient cave. The young holy son heard the silver-haired woman's murmur and frowned. This was not the first time he heard the words, young master, from her. But no matter how he asked, she refused to reveal anything. Who is that young master? Why are you so obsessed with him? The young holy son's eyes revealed a hint of jealousy. However, he hid it very well. In the next second, his face was once again plastered with a smile that made people feel like they were bathing in the spring breeze. Chapter 586. The Ancient Cave of Treasures was a place of great fortune within the barren forbidden grounds. Legend had it that the first batch of emperors was born where the barren forbidden grounds was formed. One of them was called the Emperor of Many Treasures. This ancient cave of treasures was where that person once lived. The Emperor of Many Treasures had once set up a restriction in this ancient cave, causing all sorts of treasures to appear every once in a while. Therefore, every time the barren forbidden grounds opened, the ancient cave of treasures would attract a large number of prodigies. On a huge stone wall that was tens of thousands of meters tall, there were many caves on it. These caves were connected to each other, as if they were some kind of formation. They gave off an extremely mysterious aura, and the inside of these ancient caves was filled with spiritual chi that was so dense that it was almost tangible. The spiritual energy formed a fog, making it difficult for others to see what was happening within the caves. However, one could faintly see the glow of treasures flickering within the caves. This place was the Ancient Cave of Treasures. There was more than one ancient cave of treasures. All the caves on the stone wall were ancient caves of treasures. Outside the stone wall, many prodigies had already gathered. These prodigies were either scattered or gathered in groups of 2 or 3. They were all waiting for the treasures that were brewing within the ancient cave to appear. Looking at the time, the tide of treasures should be arriving soon. Yes, indeed. As long as the spiritual energy within the ancient cave of treasures reaches its peak, the treasures will appear. Tsk, it's a pity that this ancient cave of treasures has a restriction and outsiders can't enter. Otherwise, I would definitely go in and take a look. That's true. Whoosh, at this moment, a ray of red light flew over and turned into a woman in bright red armor. It was Bai Hongyu. Seeing this person, no one was surprised. An opportunity like the ancient cave of treasures was something that even the forbidden prodigies wouldn't want to miss. However, when the other prodigies saw Bai Hongyu, they couldn't help but retreat a little. When the treasures appeared, they wouldn't be able to compete with Bai Hongyu. Fortunately, this ancient cave of treasures was covered with stone walls. And this stone wall extended for dozens of miles. There were hundreds and thousands of ancient caves on it, so there was no need for them to focus on just one ancient cave and compete with these forbidden geniuses. Other than Bai Hongyu, the other forbidden prodigies also arrived. A 5-colored light flashed in the sky, and a person stepped on it. His aura was imposing, as if a divine king had descended, and his might shook everyone present. A royal power. Bai Hongyu narrowed her eyes. Buzz buzz buzz. At this moment, the earth was shaking and the surrounding mountains were rumbling. A dark-skinned man with a horn on his head walked over with his head held high. With every step he took, the ground shook. It was the forbidden prodigy of the ox demon Nyodali. The primordial ferocious beasts have also come. The forbidden prodigies appeared one after another, their auras extraordinary. At this moment, a sword light whizzed over, and the swords in the hands of all the swordsmen present could not help but tremble. It was as if they were respectfully welcoming the King of Swords. The strange phenomenon caused many swordsmen to narrow their eyes. Such a Tao of the sword. It's him. Jian Daozi of the swordfolk. The sword light arrived at the scene and manifested in the air, transforming into a young man in a golden robe. It was Jian Daozi. The sword chi he exuded was extremely chilling, causing all the forbidden prodigies present to feel solemn. What a powerful sword chi! Could he have already reached the level of a peak great emperor? And this Tao of the sword is at least at the greater mastery stage. Looks like his fortuitous encounters are not shallow. To be able to reach this step. Bai Hongyu gripped the crimson dragon phoenix saber in her hand, her eyes filled with surprise. She had thought that her fortuitous encounters were already great, but she did not expect Jian Daozi's improvement to be even greater than hers. Boom! A monstrous murderous aura suddenly shot up into the sky from the mountain range. The murderous aura was like a flood, condensing into a giant black silhouette in the sky. Its battle roar echoed through the clouds and shook the mountains. Many cultivators were affected by the terrifying murderous aura and battle intent. They could not help but feel their spiritual energy surge uncontrollably. Damn, which taboo is this? This aura, could it be the rumored supreme Taoist physique, the infallible tormented physique? Who is it? Everyone looked toward the source of the murderous aura, and saw a young man in a black robe slowly walking over. The murderous aura around him was so strong that it was not weaker than Jian Daozi's. Bai Hongyu was slightly surprised. Oh, the Sha clan's taboo, Sha Wuxia. The Sha clan was an ancient orthodoxy from the Nine Skies. And Sha Wuxia was like Bai Hongyu, a taboo genius from the Nine Skies. Looks like the competition in the treasure ancient cave will not be too boring, Jian Daozi said softly. He stood with his hands behind his back and looked at Sha Wuxia with a hint of battle intent. The way he saw it, among all the geniuses present, perhaps only Sha Wuxia was qualified to be his opponent. Apart from Sha Wuxia, another taboo genius appeared. It was Tu Heng from the demon race. This person's aura was also tyrannical, and it was obvious that he had encountered some fortuitous encounters. However, compared to Jian Daozi and Sha Wuxia, he was still slightly weaker. In the crowd, everyone looked at the gathering of the taboo geniuses, and could not help but sigh. There are so many geniuses in this generation. I wonder who will be the next emperor. There are indeed unprecedented changes in this world. A pair of eyes stared at these people with a hint of eagerness in their eyes. It was a young man holding a sword. His eyes shone with yin and yang light. I wonder how much weaker I am compared to these taboo geniuses now. The sword-wielding young man murmured. He had an urge to find one of the taboo geniuses and fight it out. However, he knew that the current situation was not suitable for him to do so, so he suppressed this impulse. It's you, Nangong Huang. At that moment, a surprised voice suddenly rang out. Tuba, who was beside Tu Heng, had noticed Nangong Huang. Nangong Huang was also very surprised. He did not expect that person to recognize him. What's the matter, Tuba? Do you know that person? Tu Heng looked at Tuba and said. Tuba nodded slightly. He's from the Firmament Black Heaven sect. He's a sky pride from the Soaring Dragon leaderboard. Upon hearing that, everyone looked indifferent. They were not interested at all. He's just a sky pride from the outside world. There's nothing to pay attention to. Indeed, but the Black Heaven sect that he's from is a little special. Tuba smirked and said, the sect leader of the Black Heaven sect is Chu Kuangren. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Instantly, the taboo genius's gazes fell on Nangong Huang. He's Chu Kuangren's man. Chu Kuangren. What an annoying name. Jian Daozi, Wang Quan Bai Hongyu, and the others immediately looked at him with hostility. They hated Chu Kuangren, so naturally they did not have a good impression of the Black Heaven sect. The Black Heaven sect is not welcome here. You scram immediately. Bai Hongyu said indifferently. Nangong Huang knew that something was wrong when he heard Tuba's words. He had some understanding of his sect leader's troublemaking methods. The ancient cave of treasures does not belong to you. You have no right to occupy it. The ancient sword at Nangong Huang's waist trembled slightly as he said. He was already eager to try out the taboo sky prides, but he did not expect the opportunity to be presented to him so soon. Chapter 587. Qualifications? You want to talk to me about qualifications? Bai Hongyu smiled coldly. With a lift of her hand, boundless spiritual energy gushed out and formed a huge red seal in the void, smashing down on Nangong Huang. It was the Bai family's emperor technique, Heaven Worship Seal. The appearance of the Heaven Worship Seal caused the ground around Nangong Huang to cave in. Is this the combat strength of a forbidden prodigy? As expected, you can't be underestimated. Nangong Huang was solemn, but also excited. He unsheathed the long sword at his waist. Although it was only a pseudo-emperor weapon, it was a yin-yang attribute pseudo-emperor weapon, which was very compatible with his yin-yang god-eye physique. Yin-yang fire. Nangong Huang swung his sword, and a dazzling sword ray bloomed, turning into a sword ray burning with black and white flames. The sword light whistled out while extremely piercingly cold, and it slashed ferociously onto the Heaven Worship Seal. The void around them exploded. The Heaven Worship Seal and the sword ray exploded, and many prodigies were forced to retreat. Bai Hongyu's face instantly darkened. Nangong Huang actually blocked her attack. Looks like I've underestimated you. But even so, how many moves can you take? Bai Hongyu snorted and used the red dragon phoenix blade in her hand. It was an emperor weapon. Everyone couldn't help but be amazed at the sight. A forbidden prodigy had to use an emperor weapon to deal with an outsider prodigy. It seemed like Nangong Huang's strength was extraordinary. Even if he wasn't as strong as a forbidden prodigy, he was still above the top prodigies. Heaven Worship Blade Technique. Bai Hongyu snorted and swung her blade down. Boundless spiritual energy gathered and formed a red blade shadow. Wherever the blade shadow passed, there was a scene of gods and demons kneeling and worshipping the heavens. The power of this attack was terrifying. Any prodigy below the level of a forbidden prodigy would definitely die if they tried to block it. However, Nangong Huang didn't retreat. Instead, he let out a long roar and took a step forward. The long sword in his hand trembled violently, and surging spiritual energy erupted. Yin-yang lightning, heaven destruction. The yin-yang divine light in Nangong Huang's eyes flowed continuously, and was injected into the longsword in his hand. Black and white lightning intertwined, emitting a terrifying fluctuation. With a slash, the black and white lightning intertwined and turned into a domineering sword ray that met the blade shadow. The saber light and the sword chi collided with each other, causing the surrounding mountain walls to shatter. Nangong Huang was sent flying hundreds of feet away by the huge impact. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth while Bai Hongyu could not help but take a few steps back. Her charming face was filled with anger and her eyes were gloomy. She had used her emperor weapon, but she still could not defeat Nangong Huang. She could even sense that the surrounding geniuses were looking at her with a hint of amusement in their eyes, as if they were questioning her powers. Are you kidding me? You're a taboo. You can't even deal with a prodigy from the outside world? Why don't you leave the group yourself? Although no one said it explicitly, Bai Hongyu could tell from their eyes that this was what they were thinking. Damn it. Damn it. I'll finish you off with one more strike. Bai Hongyu flew into a rage out of humiliation. The monarch weapon in her hand shone with a resplendent red light, and the silhouette of a dragon and a phoenix circled around the blade of the saber. Bursts of dense emperors might spread out. It was obvious that Bai Hongyu was going all out. She planned to finish off Nangong Huang with her next attack. Die. The saber light covered the sky as the power of the crimson dragon and phoenix saber erupted. The silhouette of a dragon and a phoenix charged towards Nangong Huang. At this critical moment, a scorching flaming sword light and a terrifying frosty aura exploded at the same time. They attacked the dragon and phoenix from both sides. With a loud explosion, the fiery aura and frosty aura spread out, burning and freezing everything in its path. A man and a woman suddenly appeared beside Nangong Huang. Murong Xian Qingxue. Nangong Huang looked at the two of them in surprise. They were the Taoists of the Black Heaven sect, Murong Xian and Shang Qingxue. Yo, Nangong Huang, you look a little pathetic. Murong Xian looked at Nangong Huang and smiled. That's a taboo prodigy. Why don't you try? Nangong Huang curled his lips. It seemed like he was still a distance away from becoming a taboo prodigy. Shang Qingxue, who was beside him, rolled her eyes. You two are still bickering at a time like this. She took out a drop of green liquid and shot it into Nangong Huang's mouth with a flick of her finger. A huge burst of vitality instantly healed most of Nangong Huang's injuries. Even his spiritual power had recovered quite a bit. Fortunately, I still have some earth vein essences left in me. Shang Qingxue said as she looked at the taboo prodigies in the air cautiously. The situation was not looking good. One taboo prodigy was enough to take them down, not to mention the few in front of them who were hostile towards them. Earth vein essences? What's your relationship with Chu Kuangren? Bai Hongyu asked coldly. Earth vein essences were so precious. Who would give it to someone who was not close to them? It's none of your business. It doesn't matter if you don't want to tell me. I didn't want to kill you guys, but since you've provoked me again and again, don't blame me for being merciless. The crimson dragon and phoenix saber in Bai Hongyu's hand shone brighter and brighter. You didn't look like you didn't want to kill us at all. Murong Xian sneered. Kill! Bai Hongyu yelled. Without another word, she activated her surging spiritual power and unleashed another sword ray. Murong Xian and the other two joined forces to fight back. The three of them had their own opportunities in the Emperor's path and had improved tremendously. With their combined forces, even Bai Hongyu could not take them down in a short time. This enraged her. After all, she had obtained an opportunity of fortune in the barren forbidden area, and her strength had far surpassed her previous self. Initially, she had planned to compete with Chu Kuangren. However, she could not even take down 3 of Chu Kuangren's disciples. With her current strength, how was she supposed to compete with him? The more she thought about it, the angrier she got, and her attacks became even more domineering. Powerful sword rays, accompanied by the horrifying scene of gods and demons kneeling, were constantly reflected in the void. Murong Xian swung the long sword in his hand, and the scorching fiery sword rays almost burned the heavens and earth into ashes. His cultivation level had reached the boundary emperor level, and on top of that he had cultivated a powerful emperor-grade technique. His spiritual power was so high that it was not much weaker than a top-tier boundary emperor's. Shang Qingxue's combat strength was not weak either. After her encounter at the Celestial Mountain Lake, her Daoist physique had been upgraded to the Supreme Daoist physique level, and the chill that she could unleash was extremely terrifying. The chill was like a tidal wave, coming wave after wave. Even a top-tier boundary emperor would have to be extra careful when facing it. Nangong Huang's divine yin-yang light flowed and merged with the sword rays. The 3 of them joined forces to fight the forbidden beast. For a moment, it seemed like they were going to suppress Bai Hongyu. Everyone could clearly see that if Bai Hongyu did not have an emperor weapon in her hand, she would have already lost. What a disgrace to the forbidden beast. A cold snort was heard as Jian Daozi made his move. With a lift of his arm, 3 sword rays were unleashed, and in an instant, Nangong Huang and the other 2 were forced to retreat. Jian Daozi took a step forward and arrived before the 3 of them. Sword-based Taoist rhymes poured out from his body, and the domineering aura was so strong that it almost suffocated the 3 of them. Although they were both forbidden beasts, Jian Daozi's current strength was undoubtedly much stronger than Bai Hongyu's. 3 sword attacks. If you can survive 3 of my sword attacks, I'll let you leave this place. Jian Daozi said in a menacing tone. Oh, why don't you let me take on those 3 sword attacks? At that moment, a cold voice was heard. Along with it, a vast light chi surged in the sky. Chapter 588. Why don't you let me take on those 3 attacks instead? A cold and indifferent voice suddenly rang out. Suddenly, a large amount of white light shone from afar, and a surging light aura surged. The light aura was so majestic that it almost lit up half the sky. The demonic cultivator Tu Hung squinted at the white aura, and felt a little annoyed. Their demonic chi was inclined towards darkness, so it was only natural that they were annoyed by this light aura. Besides the demonic cultivators, some of the black-robed cultivators in the crowd could not help but frown. This aura, it's that group of sanctimonious people. However, this voice is a little unfamiliar, and it's such a powerful light aura. Since when did the Radiant sect have someone like this? The black-robed cultivators looked at each other in confusion. Nangong Huang, Murong Xian, and Shang Qingxue seemed to have thought of something, and their eyes were filled with excitement. It's her. Within the vast white light, a silver-haired lady in a gorgeous silver-white armor slowly walked out. Wherever she went, a large amount of light aura intertwined and formed into blossoms of white divine fire that paved a path of light in all directions. The sacred lady's journey, paved with divine fire. The scene before them caused everyone present to be shocked. Many people could not help but look at the silver-white figure with infatuation in their eyes. Oh my God! She's so beautiful, so holy. Is this really a goddess that has descended into the mortal world? Who is this lady? Her aura is too extraordinary. The crowd discussed among themselves. Even the forbidden sky prides could not help but be moved. On the other hand, Murong Xian and the other 2 were excited. It really is Lan Yu. She's here, and she looks many times stronger than when she first entered the Emperor's path. What a powerful aura! As expected of Lan Yu, the newcomer was the new sacred lady of the Divine Radiant sect, a disciple of the Black Heaven sect, and the closest person to Chu Kuangren, Lan Yu. Behind Lan Yu, the Radiant sect's cultivators also appeared one by one. Their appearance caused the cultivators at the scene to start discussing among themselves. The Divine Radiant sect. It's the Divine Radiant sect. The Radiant God Church and the Dark God Church are the 2 great churches in the Emperor's Road. They have a long history, and can be said to be one of the oldest ancient orthodoxies. This woman has such a large entourage. Look, even the forbidden prodigy, the Light Saint, is behind her. This woman's status in the God sect is unimaginable. Lan Yu appeared. Her stunning beauty and holy aura instantly became the focus of everyone's attention. Even Jian Daozi and Wang Quan, who were used to seeing all sorts of beauties, didn't have their eyes light up and reveal looks of amazement. Since when did the Radiant God cult have someone like you? It's fine during the day, but why don't you explain? Jian Daozi asked the Radiant Saint, Bai Tianxing, who was standing behind Lan Yu. Bai Tianxing smiled faintly and said, She is the new Holy Virgin of the Divine Radiant cult. The position of the Radiant Church's saintess has been vacant for many years. I didn't expect that you would actually find it. But, why do you want to interfere in this matter? Jian Daozi asked indifferently. Bai Tianxing also looked at Lan Yu in confusion. Lan Yu did not explain too much. She looked at Jian Daozi indifferently and said, If you want to hurt them, you'll have to get past me first. The Black Heaven sect was Chu Kuangren's sect, and it was her home. Nangong Huang, Murong Xian, and Shang Qingxue were like family to her. How could she sit back and watch Jian Daozi hurt them? Oh, it seems like you're determined to interfere in this matter. Jian Daozi raised an eyebrow. Lan Yu's temperament and appearance were indeed stunning to him, but he would not go easy on her just because of that. Make your move, Lan Yu said indifferently. Then let me witness the strength of the Radiant Church's saintess. Jian Daozi's body gradually emitted a cold and domineering sword qi that caused the surrounding swords to tremble. I've said it before. If they can block 3 of my sword attacks, I'll let them leave this place alive. Now, since you want to stand up, I'll let you block 3 of my sword attacks. Jian Daozi raised his hand and unleashed the first sword attack. The sword qi flew out like quicksilver and descended from the sky. Lan Yu stood where she was with a ball of white divine fire burning in the center of her palm. With a single palm attack, the divine light flame shook off the sword ray. When the 2 energies collided, The divine fire shattered, and the sword ray disintegrated. The surrounding sky prides took a few steps back. Lan Yu, on the other hand, was as steady as a mountain. Is that all the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart has? Compared to my master, you're nothing. From what she said, it seemed like the master she mentioned also had the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart. Hearing this, everyone's eyes were filled with contemplation. Jian Daozi's eyes narrowed. The master you're talking about is Chu Kuangren. Not only him, but the Radiant Church's bachelor sage. Bai Tianqing's eyes also flashed. So that master is Chu Kuangren? Come, show me your second sword attack. Let me see how much of my master's strength you can achieve with your full strength. Lan Yu did not directly answer Jian Daozi's question. However, to the crowd, she had already admitted it. At that thought, the crowd could not help but be amazed. I can't believe the Radiant Church's saintess is so respectful to Chu Kuangren. TSK, what a surprise. TSK, Chu Kuangren's methods are really impressive. Indeed. Among the crowd, Li Salong was also there. He looked at Lan Yu with jealousy and hatred. F***CK, why are all these beauties related to Chu Kuangren? Lung Ningyu, the mystic sword guard, and now Lan Yu. All of them were stunning beauties, peerless sky prides, and each of them had a higher status than the last. Anyone who's related to Chu Kuangren is my enemy. Even the Radiant Church's saintess is no exception. Jian Daozi snorted coldly as his sword-based Taoist rhyme erupted. His spiritual power surged and formed an illusory sword shadow in the void. As the sword slashed down, it was accompanied by a violent storm. The void cracked like a mirror, and streaks of white patterns appeared. Tempest Sword. Lan Yu remained calm in the face of the Tempest Sword. The silver-white armor on her body shone brightly, and the holy radiant chi seeped out from her body. Divine Radiant Shield. The holy radiant chi erupted and formed a divine shield that burned with white flames. The Tempest Sword collided with the divine shield, causing a loud explosion that shook the surroundings. The shield shattered, and the Tempest Sword's remaining energy penetrated the shield and swept towards Lan Yu, forcing her to take a few steps back. You're quite strong indeed. Lan Yu patted the dust off her armor and said indifferently, You still have one last attack. You can't block the last attack. Be careful, the wind is too strong and you might bite your tongue. Jian Daozi's spiritual power surged as his 3 Daoist physique transformations erupted. This was the last attack. Jian Daozi's spiritual power erupted, and his sword-based Daoist rhyme and spiritual power were pushed to their limits, forming a 4-colored sword shadow that contained the 4 elements of earth, wind, water, and fire. Although he had lost his sword Yuan, his 4 divine sword Dao was still there. Even after refining the Azure Mystic Sword Emperor's inheritance, his understanding of the 4 divine sword Dao had reached a whole new level. As the sword slashed down, the sword shadow formed by the 4 divine energies was dazzling as it slashed towards Lan Yu. Spear of Judgment. Lan Yu's divine radiant flame turned into a divine spear that instantly shot out. A divine spear and a sword shadow collided. Both Lan Yu and Jian Daozi were forced back nearly 100 feet each. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.